Chapter 1610. Lifelong City was very vast. As the center of authority of the lifelong realm, one could very well imagine how prosperous and powerful the lifelong realm lord was. There was no suspense at all, this was the largest capital city in the lifelong realm. Every 100 years, the lifelong realm lord would summon the world palace lords of the 9 world palaces to the lifelong realm for a gathering. This was also the time when the 9 world palaces would pay tribute. The monarchs of the 9 world palaces would pay tribute once every 10 years, but the world palace lords would pay tribute once every 100 years. Every 100 years, there would be a grand banquet. Not only would the experts of the 9 world palaces gather in lifelong city, some of the peak powers of the lifelong realm would also gather here to enjoy this banquet. And the time of this banquet would be 7 days later. Because of the upcoming grand banquet, lifelong city was exceptionally lively during this period of time. All the major powers of the vast lifelong realm traveled millions of miles to attend the grand banquet. They didn't want to miss this opportunity. After all, to the people of the lifelong realm, being able to attend such a grand banquet was extremely beneficial to their state of mind. In addition, only those experts from the major powers had the qualifications to attend. The weaker characters from the minor powers had no way to travel across the boundless land to come here. They also didn't have enough resources to support them in using the teleportation array. The various governor manors in lifelong city also started to get busy. This city was divided into 36 regions, and the governors of each region were all peak-stage immortal emperors, standing at the absolute peak. As long as they could advance a step further, they would have the qualifications to contend for the position of World Palace Lord of the 9 World Palaces. In addition, there were 4 grand governors in lifelong city. Each of them was in charge of the 9 regions, and their cultivation bases were all extremely terrifying. They were all existences on the same level as the World Palace Lords and were the protectors of this city. It was impossible for the Realm Lord to have the leisure time to manage the matters of lifelong city. Naturally, the 4 grand governors would help him share the burden. If the cultivation bases of the 4 grand governors weren't high enough, how would they be able to intimidate the peak powers of lifelong city? To be able to be called a peak power, it meant that there would be people at the palace lord level. These people were in the realm between immortal emperors and world overlords and could be called half-step world overlords. There were also people who referred to them as saints. This meant that from this step onwards, they had truly stepped into the realm of transcendence. From the celestial phenomenon realm to the immortal foundation realm, one would shed off their mortal body and become an immortal. Regardless of king or emperor, they would all be considered immortals. But if one transcends the immortal emperor realm, they would be above immortals, transforming into saints and could be referred to as sages. Qin Wentian walked on the bustling streets of Longevity City. At this moment, he was wearing a simple white robe. There was not a speck of dust on his body. He took off his mask and restored his original appearance. At this moment, the entire space trembled as a terrifying aura gushed over. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared over, only to see a group of experts from afar. They were clad in silver-colored armor that was thin yet sharp, gleaming with a terrifying light. Beneath their feet, there were many fearsome flying-type demonic beasts. Everywhere they passed by, people would retreat. What a heroic army! Qin Wentian silently mused. The weakest among them was at the peak stage of the immortal king realm, and there were quite a few immortal emperors. Such an army could only be seen in lifelong city. If it was in a small city, it would definitely be a shocking sight to behold. This army came to the side of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian retreated to the side as he inclined his head and stared at the people in the air. At this moment, he only saw a cold and sharp gaze staring at him. This gaze was extremely terrifying, like a bolt of lightning that directly penetrated through Qin Wentian's eyes, as sharp as an unsheathed sword. Qin Wentian felt a surge of energy gushing over. He furrowed his brows, but when he saw the other party's expression turning even colder, he relaxed his brows and didn't mind it. The other party flew through the air in a grandiose manner, exuding a domineering aura, as though there was nothing in their eyes. How arrogant! Qin Wentian stared at the departing back view of the army as he murmured. The army of Governor Xiao is naturally arrogant. A person walked over from the side and laughed in a low voice. Qin Wentian turned his gaze over. It was an old man with a cultivation base at the initial stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. Old sir, the Governor Xiao you are talking about, are you referring to Governor Xiao Yu? Qin Wentian smiled as he asked. Naturally. As the youngest governor of Lifelong City, Xiao Yu is a supreme genius nurtured by a peak power, the Sword Spirit sect. His arrogance has long been famous throughout Lifelong City and he has the qualifications to be arrogant. Even the Grand Governor would regard him highly. This Xiao Yu has never given face to the Grand Governor before. Even the Realm Lord once praised him and the other governors he leads are all as arrogant as him. The old man laughed, counting the geniuses at the peak of Lifelong City, he seemed to be filled with pride as well. But I heard that this Governor Xiao Yu is not only arrogant, he can even be said to be extremely arrogant. Beauties are as common as the clouds around him and back then, he even forced the young miss of a major power to become his concubine. Qin Wentian casually smiled. Evidently, after he came to the Lifelong Realm, he already had a certain level of understanding of the various powers and governors of the Lifelong Realm. Among the 36 governors, the news about Governor Xiao Yu gave him a deeper impression. This was a genius from the Sword Spirit sect. The Sword Spirit sect did their best to nurture him and pushed him up to the position of a governor. Clearly, the Sword Spirit sect's purpose wouldn't stop there. They wanted to nurture a world palace lord of one of the 9 world palaces and this was completely possible. All the major powers in the Lifelong Realm had done this before and there were many who succeeded in doing so. Governor Xiao is a peak-level genius, even the Realm Lord has paid attention to him before. It's only normal for beauties to be as common as the clouds around him. In fact, the various peak powers are even willing to send the young misses of their clans to the governor's manor, even willing to be his concubine. If they were ordinary beauties, Governor Xiao wouldn't even be interested in them. As for that matter in the past, Governor Xiao took the initiative to pursue her. Although there were some conflicts, the other party eventually agreed to it. There's nothing wrong with that. The old man laughed. Seems like old man really admires Governor Xiao. Qin Wentian didn't say anything more and smiled. Naturally. Before Governor Xiao took over, he challenged the 36 governors and only lost 3 times. At that time, Governor Xiao had just broken through to the peak stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. Such a glorious battle record caused a huge commotion back then, shaking Lifelong City. You must know that among the 36 governors in Lifelong City, which one of them isn't a peak stage Immortal Emperor with peak-level combat prowess? The old man sincerely praised. An existence like Governor Xiao, I wonder when would he appear again? Right now, among the 9 governors of the northern regions, Governor Xiao is the number 1. Qin Wentian smiled and nodded, he's truly extraordinary. After speaking, Qin Wentian turned and left. The old man stared at Qin Wentian's back view and laughed, young man, don't be unconvinced. Maybe you feel that you are outstanding but given how vast Lifelong City is, how many people like Governor Xiao are there? I'll remember old sir's words. Qin Wentian laughed. Several days later, a huge commotion occurred in the 9 city regions of Lifelong City. 3 governors were challenged by the same person and all of them were defeated. This person was clad in white and was extremely handsome. What was even more terrifying was that his cultivation base was only at the mid-stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. When he challenged the first governor, the governor didn't even bother to look at him and sent his vice-governor to fight him. However, the vice-governor was defeated miserably and was insta-defeated with a single move. After that, the second governor challenged him and was defeated by his opponent with absolute superiority. This news caused a huge commotion. After that, that mysterious expert continued to challenge the other two governors, and without any suspense, he easily defeated both of them. For a period of time, a huge wave of commotion arose in the northern regions. There were so many immortal emperors in Lifelong City. Although peak-stage immortal emperors were powerful, they weren't that rare. And for those who could become governors, they were all existences with extremely high combat prowess. Yet, 3 governors were actually defeated by a single person. Not only that, this person was also a mid-stage immortal emperor. Such news was given that the lifelong banquet was about to commence. How could this not cause a huge commotion? Many people guessed that the reason why such a powerful and mysterious character suddenly appeared was because he wanted to become famous. And the purpose of this person's fame was very simple. He wanted to attract the attention of the Realm Lord and the lifelong Saint Hall. If he could gain their favor, he would surely soar up to the clouds. Just when everyone was immersed in this news, a challenge letter was sent to the governor's manor of the first governor of the northern regions, Xiao Yu's manor. When this news circulated out, the entire northern regions were shaken. Only now did they understand that the true target of this mysterious challenger wasn't the 3 governors. His target was Xiao Yu. A peak-level genius of the Sword Spirit sect, Xiao Yu. Back then, he was the same as this mysterious person. He relied on challenges to climb up, gaining the attention of the lifelong Saint Hall and became a governor. Right now, there was someone who consecutively defeated the 3 governors and even challenged Xiao Yu. His purpose was obvious. For a period of time, the entire northern regions were shaken. Today, outside the governor's manor Xiao Yu was in, many people gathered. They were all here to spectate this mysterious challenger's challenge. The gates of the governor's manor were wide open. Many people could see Xiao Yu sitting inside, hugging beauties on his left and right. All of them were peak-grade beauties that exuded a demonic aura, exuding a faint aura of nobility. These were all women of extraordinary birth and were taken as concubines by Xiao Yu. Now that they were beautiful and elegant, many people silently mused that Xiao Yu truly knew how to enjoy life, nurturing his concubines to become so outstanding. And even now, Xiao Yu still didn't have a wife. He only took concubines. From his point of view, it was still too early for him to reach the pinnacle. In the future, his wife would surely be a peerless beauty. This Xiao Yu is truly confident. The people outside couldn't help but to sigh when they saw how much Xiao Yu was enjoying himself. Seems like Xiao Yu is filled with confidence. However, given his strength, although the challenger is mysterious, it would still be hard for him to win against Xiao Yu. The crowd discussed. At this moment, a white-robed figure flew over from afar. This person soared through the air with his hands behind his back, exuding an extremely carefree aura. His countenance was handsome and his entire being radiated an extraordinary aura. Compared to the supreme genius of the Sword Spirit sect, Xiao Yu, his aura wasn't in any way inferior at all. Chapter 1611. He's here. The gazes of many turned to Qin Wentian, who was flying through the air, involuntarily comparing him to Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu, a well-known character of the younger generation of the Sword Spirit sect. Many of the elders were already surpassed by him. Right now in the entire Sword Spirit sect, there weren't many who could win against him. He had a pair of sword-like brows and his eyes were filled with spirit. His countenance exuded a devilish charm. Although he knew that Qin Wentian had arrived, he didn't lift his head. He continued drinking wine and chatting with the 2 beauties beside him, as though he didn't care about this challenge at all. As for this mysterious challenger, up until now, no one knew his name or which power he came from. It was as though he was a supreme genius who appeared out of nowhere in Lifelong City, wanting to use Xiao Yu to rise to fame. In reality, things were just as they guessed. Qin Wentian did indeed want to use Xiao Yu to rise to fame. He looked at the records of the 36 governors of Lifelong City and knew that this Xiao Yu was a genius nurtured by the Sword Spirit sect. In addition, he didn't let down the expectations of the sword spirit sect. This man was extremely arrogant and had a high opinion of himself. Also, he was extremely lustful and had many concubines. He already had over 10 beauties and all of them were daughters of major powers in Lifelong City. Ordinary women weren't even worthy to be his concubines. These were clearly his flaws. It was just that these flaws were masked by his radiance, becoming the topic of discussion instead. Under the radiance of the Sword Spirit sect and the youngest governor of Lifelong City, being arrogant and having so many beauties around him seemed to be an extremely normal thing. No one cared about this. This point could be seen from the conversation between the old man and Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian walked forward step by step, staring at Xiao Yu who was inside. His aura gushed forth, the intent of a challenge was self-evident. From the crowd far away, an old man stared at Qin Wentian in astonishment. He walked out and spoke, "It's really you." Qin Wentian turned his gaze over and smiled at the old man. So it turned out that this old man was none other than the Immortal Emperor he met back then. "Nice to meet you, sir," Qin Wentian said with a smile. The old man's eyes flashed as he stared at Qin Wentian. "Little fellow, although your talent is outstanding, and the fact that you were able to defeat 3 great commanders in a row shows your strength, you must not do something you cannot do just because you want to be famous. If you give up now and apologize to Commander Xiao, perhaps Commander Xiao will let you go." Challenging a commander wasn't a fun thing to do. A commander was the most powerful person in a region. How could they be challenged just because they wanted to? If you dared to challenge a commander's prestige, it was fine if you won. But if you lost, even if you were killed on the spot, no one would dare to say anything. You were the one who came to challenge them, so of course you had to pay the price. If not, wouldn't everyone dare to challenge you in the future? Such matters had happened many times in the history of the world of immortals. The challengers would obtain fame after defeating the commanders, but they didn't dare to do anything to the commanders. However, if they were defeated, the best outcome would be severe injuries. Getting their cultivation crippled or even being killed was an extremely common thing. "Many thanks old sir, but I still wish to give it a try." Qin Wentian nodded and smiled at the old man. The old man glanced at Qin Wentian and sighed, "Why must you do this? You are all geniuses, stepping into the Immortal Emperor realm at such a young age. Is fame really so important to you guys?" Qin Wentian smiled and didn't say anything. Fame. What he needed the most now was fame. Fame in Lifelong City. The Lifire Empyrean intentionally didn't bring him here. In that case, he could only come here himself. If not, he would forever be in a passive state, being toyed with by the Lifire Empyrean. There are many people who want to use me to gain fame. You are not the first. As to why I'm sitting here to meet you, it's purely because you defeated a few governors. Hence, I'm willing to meet you. Xiao Yu inclined his head, staring at Qin Wentian through the air. His voice was filled with arrogance and coldness. "Now, I'll give you 2 choices. The first choice, because you provoked the governor's manner, you have to kowtow 3 times to the governor's manner. I'll pretend that nothing has happened and you can leave." "What about the second choice?" Qin Wentian asked. "You will die." Xiao Yu calmly spoke, his tone filled with an unquestionable tone. "Truly as arrogant as the rumors say." A smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. "Maybe, there's a third choice. You will lose." Xiao Yu who was sitting there had a mocking smile on his face. He would lose. A mid-stage Immortal Emperor challenging a peak-stage Immortal Emperor like him who had unparalleled combat prowess? This sounded like an extremely ridiculous joke. Most probably, the spectators were all waiting to see this joke. Only to see Xiao Yu hugging his concubine as he stood up. After that, his body slowly floated up into the air. The 2 concubines beside him also floated up. Also, these 2 beauties were actually at the Immortal Emperor realm. Although the Immortal Emperor realm wasn't considered high in Lifelong City, just these two concubines of Xiao Yu were already extremely shocking. The third choice. You want to use the method I used when I became famous to borrow my fame? The mocking smile on Xiao Yu's face was extremely demonic. To me, it's the path to fame. But to you, it's the path of seeking death. As the sound of his voice faded, he released the two concubines and stepped out. Killing you is as easy as lifting a hand. Governor Xiao, please guide me. Qin Wentian stood with his hands clasped behind his back as he calmly stared at Xiao Yu. A faint smile could be seen on his face, exuding a sense of lightness in his heart. The current him made people not dare to underestimate him. Judging from his demeanor, he should be from an extraordinary power. If not, he wouldn't have dared to stand here. However, the person he was facing was none other than Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu's aura suddenly changed. In just an instant, the pressure in the air intensified to the extreme, causing people to feel a sense of suffocation. It was as though the entire sky and earth was changing according to his aura. Such an ability was too terrifying. He didn't even move, but the pressure in the air had already turned incomparably heavy and sharp. His eyes abruptly trembled. In just an instant, two terrifying bolts of lightning appeared in the air, shooting towards Qin Wentian's eyes, aiming for Qin Wentian's soul. At this moment, Qin Wentian only felt as though a series of terrifying spatial swords had appeared in his soul, frenziedly shuttling about. His soul felt as though it was in the middle of a raging sea, akin to a lone boat, enduring the onslaught of the raging storm. Xiao Yu's eyes, his silhouette, were all imprinted into Qin Wentian's soul. There were very few people who were proficient in soul attacks, and those with such a powerful soul attack were even rarer. If it was an ordinary immortal emperor, their soul would have been instantly destroyed, dying in Xiao Yu's hands. However, Qin Wentian was also proficient in soul energy. In an instant, his soul boat seemed to have disintegrated, turning invisible and omnipresent. Even when that storm of swords frenziedly attacked, wanting to destroy everything, it still couldn't destroy Qin Wentian's soul. Qin Wentian's eyes also changed. His eyes became extremely demonic, as though they were revolving, containing an entire world within. In an instant, Xiao Yu felt himself falling into a dimension created by an eye technique. A corporeal sword of light shot through the air, piercing into his body. At the same time, a terrifying soul sword slammed into him. This gaze didn't merely contain a soul attack, it also contained an attack against the physical body. With a single glance, Qin Wentian's dual attacks arrived. Xiao Yu's sword-like brows twitched as a strange light flashed in his eyes. He didn't expect Qin Wentian to be so powerful. Not only was his soul so powerful, he could directly borrow the power of his soul to attack. Qin Wentian coldly laughed as he took a step forward. In an instant, the sky changed color as the boundless sword might directly broke through Qin Wentian's eye technique space. The power of the attack was so powerful that it directly penetrated through it. After that, a supremely powerful domain manifested. This was a supreme sword domain that could destroy the heavens and earth. Numerous ancient figures appeared, as though they were the souls of ancient sages. All of them exuded different types of sword might as they rushed towards Qin Wentian. In just an instant, the space Qin Wentian was in was about to be torn into nothingness, completely destroyed. Qin Wentian's body shimmered with an extremely resplendent spatial energy. It was as though he was in another dimension as a supreme sword domain manifested. Tens of thousands of swords whistled through the air, shooting straight towards the sword spirit Xiao Yu had summoned. For a period of time, this entire space transformed into a boundlessly violent world of swords. A scream of agony rang out, an expert who was closer to Qin Wentian was slashed by the sword intent. One of his arms was directly severed. Everyone had a look of terror on their faces as they frantically retreated. They discovered that the space outside the governor's manor had already transformed into a world of swords, surrounded by boundless tempests. Those who were too close to it would be directly killed. Bzz. Only to see Xiao Yu's silhouette vanishing into thin air, fusing into the body of an ancient sage. That ancient sage's sword spirit directly appeared before Qin Wentian as boundless sword might akin to a raging tempest slashed downwards. The sword of lightning was too terrifying, it was as though the ancient sages had come back to life. Boundless light radiated from Qin Wentian. The sword soul of the ancient sages radiated boundless might as it collided with the sword soul. Boundless light imprinted itself onto the sword soul, and after that, the sword soul was destroyed. However, this wasn't the end. On the other side, the sword soul of the ancient sages appeared. He exuded a supreme might, and with a step out, his sword might grew even stronger. With a few steps, it felt like the entire world would be destroyed. Qin Wentian directly soared through the air, appearing before the ancient sages. A tyrannical fist of light blasted out, colliding head-on with the ancient sages, shattering the sword soul. However, this didn't end there. More and more sword souls were controlled by Xiao Yu, slaughtering their way over, wanting to kill Qin Wentian no matter what. Qin Wentian's emperor light shone resplendently as boundless astral light cascaded downwards. A divine fist of light blasted out. At this moment, it felt like there were millions of arms blasting out in different directions. The power of each attack was actually the same. Faint sounds of Sanskrit could be heard, akin to the might of a great Buddha. Rumble. The entire space seemed to be on the verge of shattering. All the sword souls were destroyed, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. This mysterious man was actually able to fight against Governor Xiao Yu. Chapter 1612. The two of them in the air fought more and more violently. Xiao Yu was able to borrow the power of the sword souls of the ancient sages to fight for him. To many people, this was the first time they saw how powerful Xiao Yu was. Many people couldn't help but to sigh in admiration, as expected of a supreme genius of the Sword Spirit sect. Generations of sages of the Sword Spirit sect transformed into sword souls, who could block him. However, what made everyone even more shocked was Qin Wentian's strength. This mysterious expert who defeated 3 governors consecutively, every attack of his would radiate boundless light. His entire person was enveloped by the light, resembling a true divinity. In fact, there were even traces of Buddhic light radiating from him, causing his demeanor to be extremely extraordinary. In addition, the radiant divine fists he unleashed could be dispersed, transforming into a myriad of fist lights. Each fist light was equally powerful, shattering the sword souls of the ancient sages summoned by Xiao Yu. Everyone could sense that Qin Wentian's cultivation base was even lower compared to Xiao Yu. He was only at the mid-stage of the Immortal Emperor realm, yet he could fight to such an extent. How terrifying was this? This indicated that if he broke through to the peak stage of the Immortal Emperor realm, there was a very high possibility that Xiao Yu would be defeated by him. This indicated that in terms of combat prowess, his talent was much higher compared to the supreme genius of the Sword Spirit sect, Xiao Yu. After fighting for so long, he was still unable to defeat Qin Wentian. The light in Xiao Yu's eyes grew more and more terrifying. Both of his eyes shot out soul attacks, but Qin Wentian's eyes were filled with a resplendent light, he had no fear at all. Regardless of soul attacks or techniques, he had no way to defeat his opponent. This caused Xiao Yu to feel a sense of humiliation. A mid-stage immortal emperor actually fought to such an extent, how would everyone view him? When he thought of this, his killing intent grew even stronger. In the starry space, boundless astral light cascaded downwards as numerous sword souls descended from the heavens, directly entering his body. At this instant, Xiao Yu's entire being grew even more terrifying. His spirit and will were undergoing a transformation as the sword souls entered his body. His eyes gleamed with multiple rays of light, and the might exuding from his body actually skyrocketed, becoming much stronger. The heavens and earth were suffocating as his sword intent wanted to tear apart the heavens. Puchi puchi sounds rang out unceasingly as screams of misery rang out. The spectators from afar were all filled with terror as they hurriedly retreated. At the same time, they unleashed their own energy to defend against the occasional strands of sword intent that permeated the battlefield. Just a strand of sword intent was enough to tear people apart. There were already several people whose arms were torn off or their bodies were pierced through, looking extremely miserable. Also, this was because they were spectating the battle, it wasn't intentionally done by either side. One could only say that Xiao Yu was no longer able to perfectly control his power, causing it to leak out. As Xiao Yu stepped out, his entire person transformed into a shadow. At this instant, Qin Wentian seemed to have fallen into a domain of sword souls, a world of sword souls. The entire world seemed illusory, and when Xiao Yu stepped out, his body seemed to have transformed into that of an ancient sage. A pair of gigantic faces appeared before Qin Wentian's eyes as boundless spatial light transformed into a formless killing intent that directly penetrated into Qin Wentian's body. Qin Wentian had no way to defend against this attack, it was simply too tyrannical. Qin Wentian inclined his head and saw Xiao Yu, who had transformed into an ancient sage. His entire body seemed to be coated in a layer of golden Buddhic light. His Buddha physique contained the Vajra holy will, in addition to the undying devil attribute of his body, he could be said to be indestructible and indestructible. Despite the terrifying sword intent piercing through his body, his eyes were still as sharp as ever. Lifting his palms, a gigantic palm imprint imbued with the power of light blasted forth, directly slamming down towards Xiao Yu's gigantic body. However, at this moment, Xiao Yu's body seemed to have transformed into an illusory form. That extremely powerful palm imprint of light merely passed through his body, unable to hit him at all. This scene caused Qin Wentian's countenance to freeze. No matter how powerful an attack was, what use was it if it couldn't hit the opponent? So this is Governor Xiao Yu's illusory body. It's too powerful. Although this mysterious expert is already terrifying enough, it's still impossible for him to defeat Xiao Yu. Although the spectators were in danger, none of them were willing to leave. Before this, they still thought that this would be a one-sided battle and that the mysterious expert who challenged Xiao Yu wouldn't be a match for him. But now, they were able to witness a battle between two supremely powerful immortal emperors. This trip was truly worthwhile. How can you defeat me? A tyrannical voice rang out from Xiao Yu's mouth. He stretched out his finger and blasted it towards Qin Wentian. Terrifying sword chi rivers manifested in this space, gushing forth, wanting to tear this entire space apart. When the sword chi river blasted into Qin Wentian's body, Qin Wentian's golden body crumbled unceasingly, unable to endure any longer. Qin Wentian's powerful life force aura gushed forth as an ancient tree of life enveloped him, allowing Xiao Yu's attack to penetrate him. The spectators only saw Qin Wentian radiating light, as though he was also an undying existence. How can you kill me? The light radiating from Qin Wentian was as bright as ever, illuminating the heavens and earth, transforming into boundless sword chi that shot towards Xiao Yu. There's nothing that is truly undying. As long as you are a human, you will die. Xiao Yu's voice was as tyrannical as ever. He walked towards Qin Wentian step by step, and with every step he took, the killing intent from the void grew stronger, wanting to shatter Qin Wentian's body, killing him completely. Even if Qin Wentian had an undying body, he could still kill him. Qin Wentian's white robes fluttered violently, emitting terrifying whistling sounds. Facing against Xiao Yu's tyrannical attack, not only did his aura not weaken, it grew even stronger instead. The light radiating from his body grew more and more resplendent. Finally, Xiao Yu's silhouette appeared before him as he stabbed out a finger towards the center of Qin Wentian's brows. At this instant it was as though there were countless sword souls radiating from Xiao Yu's finger, capable of annihilating all existences. Nobody would be able to block such an attack. Rumble! A terrifying sonic boom rang out as Xiao Yu's attack pierced into the center of Qin Wentian's brows. The hearts of the spectators trembled. This time around, Qin Wentian would die for sure. No matter how powerful his undying body was, he wouldn't be able to block such a tyrannical attack. Only death awaited him. You are right, there's no such thing as an undying body. But if you want to see, even if you have an incorporeal body, you will still be annihilated. Qin Wentian's will transformed into a voice that reverberated through the heavens and earth. Qin Wentian grabbed out in the air as the supremely powerful god's hand transformed into a terrifying spatial vortex, enveloping Xiao Yu within it. Xiao Yu's body was about to dissipate into nothingness, yet Qin Wentian didn't attack him. He only focused his attacks on the spatial vortex in front of him, wanting to tear this entire space apart. In this space, even if you were in an incorporeal body, you would still be annihilated. The spatial vortex transformed into a tempest of destruction, unceasingly penetrating Xiao Yu's body. His body that resembled a sage from the past was trembling violently. Both his palms blasted out explosively as his eyes gleamed with a boundless killing intent, wanting to annihilate Qin Wentian. Boom! The spatial tempest grew even stronger. Tyrannical light energy, devil energy, spatial energy and sword energy, wanting to annihilate all existences. Arg! A miserable scream rang out. Xiao Yu's body gradually turned corporeal as his entire body trembled unceasingly. It was like he was enduring an incomparably terrifying might and his body was about to be torn apart. Governor Xiao, you have lost. Qin Wentian spat out. With an abrupt wave of his palms, Xiao Yu's body was directly flung through the air, akin to a kite with its string cut. Pucci, fresh blood spurted out from his mouth as the sage mandate dissipated. The aura radiating from Xiao Yu was no longer there, replaced with an incomparably dispirited aura. When Xiao Yu's body slammed into the ground, everyone was still immersed in the battle earlier. Their eyes were all in a daze. Defeated. A supreme genius of the Sword Spirit sect, the youngest governor of Lifelong City, was defeated. He was defeated by this mysterious and handsome young man who was only at the mid-stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. Right now, Xiao Yu was already one of the top 3 among the 36 governors of Lifelong City. Yet, he actually lost to a young man at the mid-stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. Before this was simply unimaginable. However, the truth was right before their eyes. Xiao Yu was utterly defeated. Xiao Yu's 2 beautiful concubines flashed and appeared beside Xiao Yu, stretching their hands out to help him up. However, Xiao Yu merely flung their hands away as he growled, "Scram." At this moment, all of Xiao Yu's pride seemed to have been shattered by this battle. The 2 beautiful concubines turned pale, they understood what this battle meant to Xiao Yu. As a supreme genius nurtured by the Sword Spirit sect, Xiao Yu had never experienced such a great defeat before. All the glory he had, all his fame, all his pride, all of it was reduced to ashes in this battle. This point could be seen from the eyes of the spectators. The number 1 governor of the northern city regions, Xiao Yu, fell from his pedestal in a single battle and fell so miserably. When everyone looked at Qin Wentian again, the gazes in their eyes were all different. Before this, they all thought that Qin Wentian was a young genius who didn't know the immensity of death and wanted to become famous. But now, they knew that although he was a genius who wanted to become famous, he wasn't someone who didn't know the immensity of death. He was a supreme genius who could create a storm in Lifelong City. The old man from before felt his heart pounding madly. He stared at everything in a dumbfounded manner, unable to calm his heart for a long time. He actually defeated Xiao Yu. His eyes had no way to shift away from Qin Wentian. After that, he saw Qin Wentian directly turning and leaving, not even leaving his name behind. He was as mysterious as ever, coming and going like the wind. Nobody knew who he was or where he came from. The northern city regions were shaken, Lifelong City was shaken, the Sword Spirit sect was shaken, all because of a single battle. The youngest governor of Lifelong City, a supreme genius of the Sword Spirit sect, Governor Xiao Yu, was defeated by a mysterious mid-stage Immortal Emperor young man. This mysterious young man fought against 4 governors consecutively and won consecutively. Many governors in the immortal realms were all trembling in fear, worried that this mysterious young man would suddenly appear before them before the grand banquet, challenging them and causing their reputation to fall to the ground. But that mysterious young man actually vanished without a trace. Even until the day of the grand banquet, he didn't appear again. He didn't challenge the other governors, but countless people were hoping that he would appear again. They wanted to know who he was exactly and where he came from. Chapter 16:13. Lifelong City grew more and more lively. As the date of the grand banquet approached, the commotion caused by Qin Wenqian's domineering defeat of Xiao Yu gradually faded away. More and more people started to discuss about the grand banquet, wondering which characters would stand out. Naturally, there were also many people who guessed that the mysterious expert who defeated Xiao Yu would appear during the grand banquet. After all, the reason he challenged Xiao Yu was because he wanted to become famous and attract the attention of the lifelong Saint Hall. In fact, he wanted the Realm Lord to pay attention to him. Xiao Yu was a genius that the Realm Lord had paid attention to before. How glorious was that? But now that he was defeated, the Realm Lord might have heard of this matter. The date of the grand banquet finally arrived. In the Jialan clan, at the location where the experts from Jialan Yintian's faction were gathered, Jialan Yintian was somewhat taken aback when he saw the masked young man before him. Grandmaster D, why did you come from Lifire City? A few days ago, I encountered an urgent matter and rushed back to Lifire City. However, the consumption of my energy was too great and I could only make a trip to the Jialan clan. I, D, am filled with gratitude for troubling the Jialan clan to send me here. D. Tian smiled. How would Jialan Yuntian know that the 2 people who appeared were his true self and his avatar? If he really wanted to fuss, the person in front of him right now was the real D. Tian. When did you become so polite? Back then, a certain someone was extremely dishonest. Jialan Chuyue, who was beside Jialan Yuntian, had a bright smile in her eyes as she stared at Qin Wentian. An awkward look flashed through D. Tian's eyes. Back then when his true self teased Jialan Chuyue, the effects were clear to see. Right now, Jialan Chuyue no longer had any wariness in her heart towards him. Most probably, she had already treated him as one of her own. Fairy Chuyue, I truly couldn't stand those people back then. That's why I offended them. Please don't bear a grudge against me. D. Tian laughed. Humph, that would depend on Grandmaster D's performance in the future. Jialan Chuyue smiled. She who was usually dignified and noble actually had a smile on her face right now, exuding a sense of charm. Her beautiful eyes stared at D. Tian, silently musing that this fellow actually told her not to hold a grudge against him. Back then, D. Tian was truly audacious. Jialan Yuntian, who was at the side, had a deep smile on his face when he heard the conversation between the 2 of them. He regarded D. Tian very highly as well. This genius weaponsmith was extraordinary, and although he managed to gain D. Tian's friendship, it wasn't that solid after all. Once there was a special situation, it would easily break apart. But if D. Tian was together with Jialan Chuyue, the situation would be different. The most important thing was that Jialan Chuyue seemed to have a favorable impression of D. Tian. In addition to D. Tian's talent in weaponsmithing as well as the tip of the iceberg he displayed when facing the attacks from the Sword Spirit sect, Jialan Yuntian felt that D. Tian was extraordinary. If they could really be together, Jialan Yuntian would definitely support it. Let's go, Grandmaster D is also here for this banquet. Let's move out. Jialan Yuntian spoke. Grandpa, are we heading there by ourselves? Jialan Chuyue asked. Let's meet up with your second grandpa and head there together. Although there are some conflicts between us, the Jialan clan is united as one to the outside world. There mustn't be any divisions. If not, given how many peak powers there are in Lifelong City, how can our Jialan clan continue to grow? If your second grandpa really reaches a certain height, even if he wants my position as the clan leader, I have no qualms about giving it to him. Jelan Yuntian spoke, his words filled with resolution. Jelan Chuyue wanted to say something but she didn't say anything. She only nodded her head lightly. Jelan Yuntian gathered everyone and met up with Jelan Yunhai and the others. Upon seeing Di Tian's appearance, Jelan Skywolf's expression instantly turned extremely unsightly. Back then, he kept mocking Qin Wentian, wanting to use him to make things difficult for Jelan Yuntian and the others. But after that, Qin Wentian took out an emperor-ranked weapon and stunned the people from the Shenyuan clan, causing them to be extremely polite to him. After that, the soul attacks of the experts from the Sword Spirit sect couldn't do anything to Qin Wentian and even suffered a backlash. Grandmaster D. Jelan Yunhai saw Di Tian appearing. He walked over and nodded to him. This junior has offended you in the past. I hope Grandmaster D can forgive me. As he spoke, he turned his gaze to Jelan Skywolf. Come over and apologize to Grandmaster D. Jelan Skywolf's countenance instantly turned pale. He stared at his grandfather and upon seeing the stern look in Jelan Yunhai's eyes, he walked towards Di Tian and spoke, Grandmaster D, I hope Grandmaster D can forgive me if I offended you in the past. Di Tian's expression was calm when he saw the expressions of the two of them. This Jelan Yunhai was truly not an ordinary character. He glanced at Jelan Skywolf as he calmly spoke, don't worry about it. It's just that the Jelan clan is an empyrean power and I, D, have always respected them. But after what I saw back then, I was truly disappointed. Although the Jelan clan is extraordinary, there are too many major powers in Lifelong City. For the sake of the Jelan clan's strength, there are some things I have no choice but to do. I've let Grandmaster D see a joke. Jelan Yunhai smiled at Di Tian. If I knew that Chuyue is such a good match, I wouldn't have acted so smart. Although Jelan Chuyue didn't have any favorable impression of Jelan Yunhai, she couldn't help but blush when she heard this. Clearly, the incident back then caused Jelan Yunhai and the others to misunderstand. Jelan Yuntian and the others didn't explain anything, hence Jelan Yunhai said this. She stealthily glanced at Di Tian, her beautiful eyes were filled with shyness. When Di Tian saw this scene, how could he not understand that he was misunderstood? Since Jelan Yuntian and the others didn't explain anything, he didn't say anything either. He only smiled and nodded. Big brother, let's move out. Jelan Yunhai spoke to Jelan Yuntian. The experts of the Jelan clan gathered together and soared into the air, flying towards the direction of the Lifelong Saint Hall. In the air, more and more experts soared into the air. Many of them were flying towards the center of Lifelong City, in the direction of the Lifelong Saint Hall. As expected of the golden age of the Lifelong Realm. This time around, I wonder how many heroes would appear. As they neared the Lifelong Saint Hall, more and more experts appeared. There were even some young immortal emperors who were extremely transcendent, extremely terrifying. Yeah, the Lifelong Realm is boundlessly vast, geniuses are as common as the clouds. Let's talk about the number one governor of our northern city regions, Xiao Yu. He is an extraordinary character, a supreme genius. Back then, he was singled out by the Realm Lord, but just a few days ago, he was defeated by a mysterious mid-stage immortal emperor, causing a huge commotion in the northern city regions. Most probably, this person is also here for the grand banquet this time around. Jelan Yunhai spoke. Although I don't know who that person is, he is definitely a genius of his generation. Chuyue, his cultivation base is the same as yours. You still have to work hard. Jelan Yuntian spoke to Jelan Chuyue, his gaze filled with anticipation. Although Jelan Chuyue's talent was very good, there was still a gap between her and Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu was a famous character in Lifelong City, but even someone like him was defeated by someone who jumped levels to jump levels. From this, one could very well imagine how many geniuses there were in the Lifelong Realm. Jialan Shuyue seriously nodded her head. She had also heard of that battle. The person who defeated Xiao Yu was rumored to be a godlike existence. She glanced at Di Tian beside her and smiled. Di Tian, that mysterious person also has the same cultivation base as you and is rumored to be extraordinarily handsome. What do you think of him? Di Tian didn't know how to reply. Should he praise him or belittle him? Jialan Shuyue thought that Di Tian was embarrassed and didn't know how to reply. She couldn't help but to smile lightly. The lifelong Saint Hall, the place where the lifelong Realm Lord governed. It was a majestic city that stood high up in the sky. Outside the lifelong Saint Hall, there was a flight of stairs that was 10,000 meters tall. There was a statue of the lifelong Realm Lord carved on it, and countless people would come here frequently, bowing to the statue as though it was a divinity. As the overlord of a world, the lifelong Realm Lord had supreme authority in the lifelong realm. He had invincible strength and was the target of respect for countless people. In this world that revered the martial path, the lifelong Realm Lord was the god of this world. Today, at the foot of the flight of stairs leading up to the lifelong Saint Hall, countless people gathered. No one stood in the air, everyone who came here had to descend from the air and walk. They could only stare up at the lifelong Saint Hall, no one dared to look down on this majestic city. That would be a form of disrespect to the lifelong Realm Lord. Outside the lifelong Saint Hall, there were 10 towering platforms constructed. Each of them was 90,000 meters tall, and there were thrones at the peak, exuding incomparable nobility. These were the places where the World Palace Lords would sit when they came to pay their respects to the lifelong Saint Hall. These towering platforms were the thrones of the World Palace Lords, displaying the lofty status of the 9 world palaces. In the central area, there was also an independent towering platform that was extremely vast. The platform could easily accommodate tens of thousands of people, resembling a gigantic training ground. It was unknown how many people were gathered below the towering platforms. All of them had fanatical looks in their eyes as they stared ahead. Today, they would have the chance to personally witness the peak characters of the lifelong realm. Those supreme characters who could dominate an entire region were all gathered here. The people of the Jialan clan also arrived. Standing below, Jialan Shuyue's beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light. She spoke in a low voice. Were these towering platforms constructed on a temporary basis? Naturally, they wouldn't exist normally and would only be constructed once every 100 years. However, to Empyreans, this isn't difficult at all. Jialan Yuntian spoke. Di Tian's eyes flashed as he silently mused at how extravagant this was. However, Jialan Yuntian's words were also right. There were some people who were proficient in special attributes and could easily construct these towering platforms. Clearly, the lifelong Saint Hall didn't lack such characters. The people from the Xianyuan clan have arrived. Jialan Yunhai spoke. In a certain direction, many experts from the Xianyuan clan were gathered together, clustered around a single person. Xianyuan Hao, who Qin Wentian met before in the Jialan clan, was also in the crowd. However, he wasn't conspicuous and was merely a character beside him. The person being clustered around was none other than the Xianyuan Empyrean, one of the 9 world palace lords. When he arrived, his gaze swept through the crowd as a look of disdain could be seen in his eyes. After that, he turned his gaze to the statue of the lifelong Realm Lord and bowed. Although he was a world palace lord, his actions were filled with incomparable sincerity, like he was paying respect to a god. Although the difference between a world palace lord and a realm lord was only a single step, only characters like them could understand how vast the disparity was. Chapter 16-14. Beside the Xianyuan Palace Lord of the Xianyuan clan, other than many experts from the Xianyuan clan, there were also many leaders of the major powers in the Xianyuan Palace. They came together with the Xianyuan Palace Lord, and when they saw the Xianyuan Palace Lord bowing to the statue of the lifelong Realm Lord, they all bowed in the direction of the statue as well. Everyone's eyes were filled with sincerity, at the very least, this was so on the surface. At this moment, a person walked down step by step. This person actually walked down from the top of the staircase. He had his head held high and his chest puffed out, exuding a lofty aura, extremely outstanding. He had the appearance of a young man and his hands were clasped behind his back, exuding a calm and composed aura. Facing the crowd, a look of arrogance could be seen on his face as he walked down the staircase. Sky Air Palace Lord. Beside Di Tian, Jialan Yunhai spoke. This person is the personal disciple of the lifelong Realm Lord and is extremely outstanding. The lifelong Realm Lord dotes on him and arranged for him to be one of the 9 World Palace Lords. Di Tian nodded silently. No wonder this person exuded such a lofty aura when he walked down the staircase. After the Sky Air Palace Lord came down, many experts immediately rushed over. Clearly, these people were from his Sky Air Palace as well as the major powers in his territory. All of them were extremely proud, as though they felt honored. Their Sky Air Palace Lord was the personal disciple of the lifelong Realm Lord and was doted on by many. Morning Xianyuan. The Sky Air Palace Lord nodded to the Xianyuan Palace Lord. You are early as well. The Xianyuan Palace Lord smiled and returned the greeting. From afar, the sound of whistling wind rang out. A group of people flew over like a gust of wind. Many people hurriedly gave way and after that, they saw 2 groups of experts walking over together. Although the 2 people in the lead had different appearances, their auras were somewhat similar. Both of them radiated an intense battle intent, like they were born battle maniacs. Gemini Palace Lord. Jialan Yunhai spoke. The position of the Gemini Palace Lord has always been held by 2 people at the same time. It's rumored that the Gemini Palace Lord is the personal disciple of that person. I wonder if this is true. Jialan Yuntian spoke in a low voice. According to Father's understanding, it's true. Jialan Yunhai replied. Di Tian's eyes flashed. Who was that person? As though he could see the puzzlement on Di Tian's face, Jialan Yunhai continued, in the lifelong realm, there's still another world overlord level existence. Although he doesn't like to establish his own power and roams the world, there's no need to doubt his tyrannical strength. It's said that he is a good friend of the Realm Lord, but as for the exact relationship between him and the Realm Lord, outsiders have no idea. However, it's rumored that 2 of his disciples were arranged by the Realm Lord to become the Gemini World Palace Lords. Di Tian nodded lightly. Another world overlord existence. The Dragon Saddle Palace Lord has arrived. Another group of people with extraordinary temperaments descended. They rode on demonic dragons, causing the ground to tremble. The crowd made way for them. The people from the Saddle Dragon Palace walked into the crowd. The leader of the group was an extremely dignified Saddle Dragon Palace Lord clad in armor. He glanced at the other palace lords and nodded to them. The Saddle Dragon Palace is the same as the Xianyuan Palace. It was also established by the Realm Lord when he ruled the lifelong realm. The first Palace Lord was someone who followed the Realm Lord into battle. The current Saddle Dragon Palace Lord is his descendant. Every time a new Palace Lord appeared, Jialan Yunhai would introduce them. Although he was casually speaking, it felt like he was intentionally introducing them to Di Tian. There's another world palace, the Scarlet Origin Palace. The first palace lords of these 3 world palaces are all old men beside the Realm Lord. But right now, the Xianyuan Palace and Saddle Dragon Palace Lords are still descendants of the first Palace Lords. However, the Scarlet Origin Palace is no longer the case. Back then, one of the Scarlet Origin Palace Lords made a mistake and was too arrogant, causing the Realm Lord to be enraged. The Realm Lord directly gave the order to cripple them and didn't kill them on account of their old friendship. Instead, they were exiled and the name of the Scarlet Origin Palace was retained. If not, there might be no Scarlet Origin Palace among the 9 world palaces. Jialan Yunhai continued. As he spoke, his gaze turned to a group of people in the distance. Speaking of the Scarlet Origin Palace, they are here. Your Lifeire Empyrean has arrived as well. Jelan Yunhai laughed. Di Tian turned his gaze in another direction and saw the Lifeire Empyrean leading a group of experts over. Behind the Lifeire Empyrean, there was Grand Governor Zhuge Xiong, the three governors of Lifeire City, Xia Ho, Beauty Xiao, Yin Qiu, Protector Chen and the other Protector Elders. Other than them, the Jialan Monarch and the other 8 monarchs were all here as well. Only Qin Wentian was absent. This Lifeire Empyrean was clearly guarding against Qin Wentian. This was especially so now that Yi Qianyu was suddenly transferred away. He wouldn't allow Qin Wentian to have a chance to shine and appear in the vision of the Realm Lord. After all, he was very clear about Qin Wentian's talent. If it wasn't for Qin Wentian's capabilities, he wouldn't have placed him in the Northern Governor's position to restrict the Jialan clan. The foundations of the Lifeire Palace can be considered one of the weakest among the 9 world palaces. There's also the Kumbutter Palace and Zhengmetal Palace. These 3 palaces are located in the same direction and are neighbors. Out of the 9 world palaces, their foundations are slightly weaker. The Xianyuan Palace, Dragon Saddle Palace, and Scarlet Origin Palace all have their initial palace lords who have followed the Realm Lord for a long time. As for the remaining 3 world palaces, the Gemini Palace has a character on the same level as the Realm Lord as their support. The Skyair Palace has a disciple of the Realm Lord. As for the last world palace, the Desolate Heaven Palace is said to be the strongest among the 9 world palaces. Di Tian silently nodded, memorizing the names of the 9 world palaces in his heart. As time flowed by, this region grew more and more lively. The World Palace Lords of the 9 World Palaces all arrived. The Desolate Heaven Palace Lord came as well. The Desolate Heaven Palace Lord was extremely imposing, exuding a disdainful aura as he stood there. The other 8 World Palace Lords, including the personal disciple of the Realm Lord, the Skyair Palace Lord, were all extremely polite to him. From this, one could see how powerful the Desolate Heaven Palace Lord was. Does the Desolate Heaven Palace Lord have no background? Di Tian curiously asked. It's precisely because he has no background that he relied on himself to climb to the peak step by step. This is why he is so terrifying. The Realm Lord regards him highly and once wanted to accept him as a disciple. However, the Desolate Heaven Palace Lord said that although he respects the Realm Lord, the cultivation paths of the 2 of them are different. He has his own path to walk and will naturally forge his own path to the World Overlord realm. Jelan Yunhai spoke. This means that he rejected the Realm Lord. Is he not afraid that the Realm Lord would be unhappy? Di Tian mused in a low voice. This Desolate Heaven Palace Lord was truly tyrannical enough. Although the lifelong Realm Lord's cultivation path wasn't suitable for him, his status as the Realm Lord's disciple was already extremely outstanding. It wouldn't be bad for him to occasionally give pointers. Yet, he actually rejected the Realm Lord. The Realm Lord controls boundless territories, how can he be so narrow-minded? The Desolate Heaven Palace Lord is someone he admires a lot and is also his subordinate. Even if he doesn't want to be his disciple, it doesn't matter. When he heard the Desolate Heaven Palace Lord's words, he merely laughed it off. Di Tian nodded lightly. The 9 World Palace Lords led their people to the 9 towering platforms and waited silently. Finally, in the direction of the lifelong Saint Hall, more and more people walked over. 2 maidens appeared at the front. Not only were their cultivation bases powerful, their beauty was also breathtaking. How beautiful! Jelan Chuyue, who was beside Di Tian, involuntarily praised. As a supreme beauty of Lifeire City, there was no need to doubt Jelan Chuyue's beauty. But when she saw these 2 maidens, she couldn't help but feel stunned. Their auras were transcendent and they exuded a sense of nobility. The maidens of the Realm Lord. What do you think? Jelan Yuntian laughed. We pay our respects to the 2 fairies. The 9 World Palace Lords bowed. Other than the desolate Heaven Palace Lord who merely nodded his head, the other 8 World Palace Lords all bowed to show their respect. Even the Sky Air Palace Lord did the same. Di Tian felt his heart trembling when he saw this scene. What sort of characters were the World Palace Lords? Their statuses were extremely high and they could look down on everyone, ruling over an entire region. But when facing these 2 maidens, they had no choice but to bow. How glorious was this? Di Tian naturally understood that this wasn't because these 2 maidens had high cultivation bases or because they were beautiful. It was because they were the lifelong Realm Lord's women. Beside him, Jialan Chuyue smiled when she saw Di Tian's expression. What's wrong with you? Di Tian glanced at Jialan Chuyue as his sharp eyes gleamed with a bright light. He smiled, I'm thinking that in the future, my women would also be like the 2 of you, lofty, being worshipped by the masses. Jialan Chuyue felt her heart trembling when she saw that pair of deep and resplendent eyes. She couldn't help but feel nervous. However, she only saw Di Tian turning his gaze away, no longer looking at her. This caused her to feel a sense of disappointment. Who was this sentence directed at? Would it be her? Jialan Chuyue was actually somewhat distracted. It was very hard to imagine that someone like her would be moved by a single sentence from an outsider. Father has arrived. At this moment, Jialan Yuntian spoke. After that, Jialan Chuyue returned to her senses. She turned her gaze towards the direction of the towering platform only to see that many people from the peak powers of Lifelong City were heading there. However, none of them dared to ascend the towering platform. They could only find their own seats on the flight of stairs. And among them, there was the true soul of the Jialan clan, the strongest expert of the Jialan clan. Let's go over as well. Jialan Yunhai spoke. As a peak power of Lifelong City, they naturally had the qualifications to have a seat on the flight of stairs. As for the other powers that followed the World Palace Lords here, they would also have their own seats on the flight of stairs. As for ordinary people, they could only stare up at everything from below. Di Tian, let's go together. Jialan Yuntian glanced at Di Tian as he asked. Di Tian nodded lightly. Upon seeing this scene, Jialan Yuntian smiled. The Lifeire Empyrean was here as well. If Di Tian wanted to go together with them, the meaning behind it was very clear. Many people started to ascend the flight of stairs. All of them were experts from the various powers. The World Palace Lords also walked towards their respective towering platforms and sat down on their thrones, exuding an incomparably imposing aura. Di Tian followed the people from the Jialan clan and came to the highest flight of stairs in the lifelong Saint Hall. This flight of stairs was actually parallel to the towering platforms of the 9 world palaces. This was a place where only people from the peak powers could reach. Chapter 16-15. The 2 brothers, Jialan Yuntian and Jialan Yunhai, walked to an old man and respectfully greeted, Father. Please take a seat. This old man was none other than the Jialan clan's overlord, Jialan Zhongshan. He had transcended into sainthood and was a half-step world overlord. He had once fought against the Lifeire Empyrean for the position of the Lifeire Empyrean. Although he lost, there was no doubt about his strength. In fact, he even had the ability to influence the situation in Lifelong City. He acted to move Yi Qinyu here. From this, one could see that although he didn't manage to seize the position of the Lifeire Empyrean, he wasn't willing to give up just like that. Grandpa. Great-grandpa. Many people from the Jialan clan bowed and greeted. Jialan Zhongshan smiled and nodded at them. After that, his gaze turned to Di Tian, who are you? The people here should all be from the Jialan clan, but he didn't recognize Di Tian at all. Hence, he asked this question. Father, Grandmaster Di is a supreme Grandmaster weaponsmith.
His weaponsmithing abilities are extremely strong and he is currently establishing the Emperor Pavilion in Lifire City. Jelon Yintian replied on behalf of D. Tian. Junior D. Tian pays my respects to Senior Jelon. D. Tian nodded lightly to Jelon Jiangshan, neither servile nor overbearing. Father, Grandmaster D is truly outstanding. Back then when he took out an emperor-ranked weapon, he wasn't inferior to the one forged by the Shenyuan clan. That last Chuyue really admires him. Jelon Yunhai also laughed. Oh. Jelon Jiangshan's eyes flashed. He naturally knew about the matters between his two sons. However, they knew their limits. No matter what grudges they had in their hearts were all for the sake of the Jelon clan. At this moment, both of them were praising the same person. This meant that this mysterious masked young man was truly capable. That last Chuyue is about to grow up. Jelon Jiangshan smiled at Jelon Chuyue, his words causing Jelon Chuyue to feel somewhat bashful and didn't reply. Although she was very close to her grandfather, Jelon Yintian, she wasn't that familiar with her great-grandfather. But even so, she knew how imposing her great-grandfather was. Grandmaster D. At this moment, a voice drifted over. D. Tian turned his gaze over, staring at a tall platform where the Lifire Empyrean was at. As for the person who spoke, it was none other than the governor of the Central City regions, Xia Ho. Grandmaster D is someone from my Lifire City and the Emperor Pavilion is also a power of my Lifire City. Why isn't Grandmaster D in my Lifire City but is here instead? Xia Ho calmly spoke, his voice filled with coldness. Clearly, he wanted to sow discord. As expected, the Lifire Empyrean turned his gaze in the direction of D. Tian. His eyes gleamed with a bright red light. Even the Violet Moon Fairy beside him was also staring at D. Tian with a cold expression. Back then when the scandal of the central governor's manor caused such a commotion, she was the one who personally went there to stop Xia Ho, allowing the Emperor Pavilion to continue existing. Who would have thought that right now, Xia Ho actually became a member of the Jelon clan. She didn't know if the Lifire Empyrean would blame her for not doing her job well. It's a long story. Back then, thanks to Governor Xia Ho, my Emperor Pavilion was almost unable to continue operating. In order to prevent the same thing from happening again, I could only find another path and head to the northern regions. Hence, I got acquainted with the Jelon clan. Right now, I'm not here as a representative of the Emperor Pavilion, I'm only here as a friend of the Jelon clan. D. Tian calmly replied. His words undoubtedly turned the tables on Xia Ho, telling him that he was together with the Jelon clan because of Xia Ho. He wanted to see what the Lifire Empyrean would think of this. When the Lifire Empyrean heard this, he naturally glanced at Xia Ho, causing Xia Ho's expression to stiffen. The gaze he used to stare at D. Tian grew even colder. D. Tian of the Emperor Pavilion pays my respects to Palace Lord. D. Tian nodded to the Lifire Empyrean. The Lifire Empyrean coldly glanced at him but didn't reply. Who didn't know about the relationship between him and the Jelon clan? Did D. Tian already choose his side? Upon seeing the Lifire Empyrean's expression, D. Tian's eyes flashed. Seems like after he returned, he should move the Emperor Pavilion to the northern regions. If there were any unforeseen circumstances, the Jelon clan should be able to bear it for him. It was impossible to balance between two hegemonic powers. Right now, D. Tian was in the light while he was in the dark. The best solution was to let the Lifire Palace and Jelon clan fight against each other. Grandmaster D, how have you been? At this moment, in another direction, Shenyuan Hao from the Shenyuan Palace called out. D. Tian's eyes turned over again as he stared in that direction. Senior Shenyuan. D. Tian was truly low profile, he wasn't as domineering as Qin Wentian in the Jelon clan. On the contrary, he maintained sufficient humility. Grandmaster is too polite, you can just call me Shenyuan Hao.
Grandmaster's glory back then is still fresh in my memory. If I'm fortunate enough to be able to invite Grandmaster D to my Shenyuan clan for a visit, I would definitely be extremely happy. Shenyuan Hao spoke. If I'm free in the future, I, D, will definitely pay a visit. D Tian smiled. This Shenyuan Hao was truly giving him face. By speaking at this moment, it would undoubtedly serve as a warning to the Lifeire Empyrean. Although it was just a simple sentence, it was already indirectly helping him. These old fellows really knew how to conduct themselves. As expected, the eyes of the Lifeire Empyrean flashed. Although they were all from the 9 world palaces, his position was extremely unstable. If he was careless, he might lose it. If not, that old fellow Zhelan Jiangshan wouldn't dare to keep staring at him. But for the Shenyuan Palace, who could shake their position? Their foundations were extremely deep. This Di Tian was actually able to gain the favor of the Shenyuan clan. From this, one could see that he was truly very capable. The various peak powers of Lifelong City arrived one after another. The experts of the 9 world palaces all turned their gazes to the throne at the top of the flight of stairs. All of a sudden, a dazzling shadow flashed, seemingly descending from the heavens. After that, a shadow landed on the throne and gradually turned corporeal, transforming into an extremely handsome young man. He seemed to be in his 20s and exuded magnificence. His hands were clasped behind his back as he smiled at everyone. Everyone started. After that, they saw the lifelong Realm Lord's appearance changing, swiftly returning to his original appearance. He looked to be in his 50s and exuded a transcendent aura, like he was a true immortal. Everyone stood up, including the Empyreans of the 9 world palaces. They stared at the young man on the throne as countless people bowed in unison, calling out in a loud voice, "We pay our respects to Realm Lord." The lifelong Realm Lord slowly sat down on the throne. If he didn't speak, no one dared to lift their heads. "Sit." The lifelong Realm Lord waved his hand and smiled. Only then did everyone incline their heads, "Thank you, Realm Lord." As the sound of his voice faded, many people sat down, feeling somewhat speechless in their hearts. When this Realm Lord appeared, he was actually a handsome young man. They had no idea what he was doing outside. Seems like he must have rushed here because the grand banquet was about to begin. However, none of them dared to ask. What cultivation base did the Realm Lord have? He was someone that transcended the lifelong realm and would often be outside. How could he always stay in the lifelong Saint Hall? As for the matters in the lifelong realm, the subordinates of the lifelong Saint Hall and the 9 world palaces would naturally help him handle them. In the blink of an eye, another 100 years have passed. The 9 world palace lords have helped me guard the various places. It has been tough on you. The lifelong Realm Lord spoke. The Skyair Palace Lord was the Realm Lord's disciple. He was the first to reply, "This is originally something we should be doing. How can it be tough on us? Realm Lord, please don't make things difficult for us." The various world palace lords spoke. Although I'm the lifelong Realm Lord, the matters in the lifelong realm have always been shared by all of you. Zhelan should be the one to speak. Men, prepare some wine. The lifelong Realm Lord spoke. After that, many young and beautiful maidens appeared behind him, preparing the wine. In the air, celestial music suddenly rang out. After that, a group of maidens clad in white with veils on their faces slowly floated down, landing on the tall platform in the center of the banquet. The dances of the fairies from the Red Dust Immortal Palace have always been breathtaking. Today, I can finally enjoy it in peace. The lifelong Realm Lord laughed. The Red Dust Immortal Palace was a peak power that was formed from extremely beautiful maidens. Not only did they have extraordinary strength, their dances were also unparalleled. If one wanted to invite them, they would have to pay an extremely great price. Although these maidens had their faces veiled, one could still see their beauty. Also, their dance, as well as the music they sang, were all extremely beautiful. Di Tian couldn't help but to praise when he saw this scene. What a beautiful dance, what moving voices. Everyone quietly admired as their eyes flashed with shock. The resplendent starlight on the tall platform was like a dream. From there, Di Tian faintly felt a sense of familiarity. At this moment, moonlight cascaded down from the starry sky. Under the moonlight, an extremely alluring and sexy figure appeared. When the moonlight shone on her, she was like a fairy from the moon palace. Although she stood there quietly, her beauty was still breathtaking to the extreme. The moment she moved, it was just a simple movement, but it caused everyone's hearts to tremble uncontrollably. Beautiful, the Red Dust Immortal Palace truly lives up to its name. Too beautiful. Someone involuntarily praised. However, Di Tian's body stiffened as he stared blankly at the figure in the void. No wonder he felt a sense of familiarity. At this moment, that beauty under the moonlight was so familiar. Once, in the Jialan Emperor city, above the lake, under the moonlight, that world-shaking dance was still unforgettable. Now, it had appeared again. The eyes of the people from the Jialan clan flashed. Jialan Chuyue's beautiful eyes flashed with a bright light. She stared at the figure in the air and asked, "Grandpa, is she really someone from the Red Dust Immortal Palace?" If it wasn't for someone recording that dance in the Jialan Emperor city, I most probably wouldn't have known about this. It's precisely because of this that I had the opportunity to bring her out from the Lifefire prison, allowing her to atone for her crimes today. The Red Dust Immortal Palace was implicated in this matter, they naturally have to apologize. Jialan Yintian didn't dare to say it directly, he transmitted his voice to Jialan Chuyue instead. Jialan Chuyue's beautiful eyes flashed. When she saw Di Tian staring at the beautiful figure in the air, her lips actually curled up into a smile. She nudged Di Tian and smiled, "Seems like this beauty has fallen." Di Tian's eyes flashed, only to hear Jialan Chuyue asking, "Do you know who she is?" Di Tian shook his head. Jialan Chuyue transmitted her voiceover, "Yi Qianyu, back then it was her and Qin Wentian who caused trouble in the Jialan Emperor city. A junior captured them and imprisoned them. The Lifefire Empyrean used this to threaten Qin Wentian, causing Qin Wentian to come to the northern city regions, wanting to deal with our Jialan clan. However, that arrogant Governor Qin actually didn't come today. Most probably, the Lifefire Empyrean doesn't want him to appear." Chapter 16:16. Di Tian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. The Lifefire Empyrean naturally didn't wish for Qin Wentian to come here. Isn't Yi Qianyu a bandit? How did she become a member of the Red Dust Immortal Palace? Di Tian pretended to be curious as he asked. The Red Dust Immortal Palace has world-shaking dances. Among them, the Mortal Dust Descent and Beauty Under the Moonlight are the two most dazzling dances of the Red Dust Immortal Palace. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to see these two dances. If the fairies of the Red Dust Immortal Palace were to perform them, they would be able to topple the hearts of the masses. Back then, after the Night Empyrean was killed, no one knew that he had a daughter. Most probably, at that time, Yi Qianyu used her shocking beauty and talent to sneak into the Red Dust Immortal Palace to cultivate. Jialan Yintian spoke in a low voice. Don't underestimate the dance of the Red Dust Immortal Palace. If this dance is performed with their unique ability, it can bewitch the hearts of people, causing them to fall into a trance. In fact, there's even a movement technique hidden within, it's extremely powerful. Yes. Di Tian nodded lightly. The magnificent dance on the platform finally came to a halt. The Red Dust Fairies all knelt on one knee. Yi Qianyu, who was in the center, also knelt on one knee. Everyone spoke in unison, the Red Dust Immortal Palace begs the Realm Lord for forgiveness. Oh. The lifelong Realm Lord laughed as he asked. What crime is there to be guilty of? My Red Dust Immortal Palace once accepted a disciple named Yi Qianyu, but I didn't expect her to be the daughter of the great bandit, the Night Empyrean. Also, Tens of years ago, the Knight Empyrean became a bandit again, causing trouble in the territories governed by the Lifeire Palace. Now, I specially let Yi Qianyu perform a dance to beg for Realm Lord's forgiveness and punishment. A fairy gently spoke. The lifelong Realm Lord laughed. I didn't expect that the fairies of the Red Dust Immortal Palace would actually be bandits. This is truly a new matter. I wonder who it is. Junior Yi Qianyu apologizes to Realm Lord. Yi Qianyu lowered her head as she spoke. The lifelong Realm Lord glanced at her and smiled. I temporarily have no idea what happened. You guys can withdraw first. After the banquet is over, come to the lifelong Saint Hall and wait for my orders. I will make my decision after I understand the situation. Yes, Realm Lord. The fairies from the Red Dust Immortal Palace stood up and swiftly retreated. It's been 100 years since we last met. The major powers of my lifelong city are still as prosperous as ever. During these 100 years, are there any characters who have broken through to the Immortal Emperor realm? The lifelong Realm Lord smiled as he stared at everyone. Realm Lord, Xianyuan Mo of my Xianyuan clan has broken through to the Immortal Emperor realm. The person who spoke was the Xianyuan Palace Lord. At the same time, he was also the soul of the Xianyuan clan. Because he was busy with the affairs of the Xianyuan Palace, he did not directly control the Xianyuan clan in Lifelong City. However, his position in the Xianyuan clan was supreme. Grand Elder Xianyuan broke through. The lifelong Realm Lord's gaze soon landed on a person as he smiled. By the radiance of the Realm Lord, I'm only able to break through because of your blessings. Xianyuan Mo stood up and bowed to the lifelong Realm Lord. Stop sticking gold on my face. What does your breakthrough have to do with me? The lifelong Realm Lord joked. Sit, there's no need to be so formal. Many thanks, Realm Lord. Xianyuan Mo sat down. After that, an expert from the Sword Spirit sect also spoke, saying that someone in their sect has broken through and stepped into that level. The lifelong Realm Lord stroked his beard and was extremely happy. He then asked, Where's Xiao Yu? I remember that Xiao Yu from the Sword Spirit sect has extraordinary talent and is currently the Grand Governor of Lifelong City. Did I remember wrongly? The eyes of everyone froze. The people from the Sword Spirit sect also fell silent. Originally, it was an extremely glorious matter to be remembered by the Realm Lord. But just a few days ago, the news of Xiao Yu's defeat had already circulated. Xiao Yu's expression stiffened. If it was in the past, he would definitely stand up with pride. But right now, not only did he feel that he had no face, he could naturally sense the peculiar expressions on the faces of those from the Sword Spirit sect. Your subordinate is here. The Realm Lord spoke. Xiao Yu eventually still stood up and lowered his head. Xiao Yu, why do you look so dispirited? The lifelong Realm Lord laughed. Reporting to Realm Lord, a few days ago, a mysterious expert appeared in my lifelong city. He challenged the 4 governors of the northern region and all 4 of them were defeated, including Xiao Yu. The sect leader of the Sword Spirit sect spoke. The eyes of the lifelong Realm Lord flashed but he still smiled. Which power is he from? Is he here today? I have no idea where he came from. He doesn't seem to be here today as well. The Sword Spirit sect leader spoke. Interesting. The lifelong Realm Lord laughed. Seems like many extraordinary emperors have appeared in my lifelong city during these years. Although I'm the Realm Lord, I've left most of my matters to the 9 world palaces and the various governors to manage. I don't know much about the matters of the lifelong realm. Today, I shall take this opportunity to take a look at the experts of my lifelong realm. Same rules, everyone who came today can participate in the Emperor-ranked competition. I will heavily reward those who can become the top 10. The eyes of many emperors gleamed with sharpness. This was a grand banquet that occurred once every 100 years. The lifelong Realm Lord would gather the experts of the 9 world palaces and the various major powers here to enjoy the banquet. In truth, this was a gathering for him as the lifelong realm lord and his subordinates. At the same time, they could enjoy the delicacies, the dances of beauties and the battles of the martial path. And to a world that revered martial arts, the battles of the martial path were undoubtedly the most anticipated. This was especially so if they could perform well in front of the realm lord and would be heavily rewarded. How rare was this opportunity? It would only occur once every 100 years. They all understood that this was an opportunity. It wasn't as simple as sparring on the surface. The truly outstanding ones would enter the vision of the lifelong Saint Hall and would be heavily promoted in the future. Right now, there were many people with high positions in the lifelong Saint Hall, including the 9 World Palace Lords, the 36 governors, the 4 Grand Governors and many other Empyreans in the lifelong Saint Hall. Many of them had come out from the grand banquet that was held once every 100 years. There was also no need for the lifelong Saint Hall to intentionally select geniuses from the younger generations. The frequency of the grand banquet that occurred once every 100 years was considered very high. As long as the geniuses grew up, they wouldn't miss out on this opportunity and would be used by them. Hence, this grand banquet only had emperors competing against each other. For those who wished to participate, get up the platform. A figure walked out. This person was none other than the protector of the lifelong realm lord. His strength was extraordinary and he was the personal attendant of the realm lord. Although his authority wasn't as great as the 9 World Palace Lords, he was still a close subject of the realm lord and his status wasn't inferior at all. In an instant, numerous figures soared through the air and landed on the platform. All of them were immortal emperors and the vast majority of them were peak-stage immortal emperors. This lineup was extremely terrifying. The majority of them were from the various major powers of Lifelong City, as well as some from the territories of the 9 World Palaces. They came here to fight for their futures. If they could enter the top 10, not only would the Realm Lord bestow precious rewards upon them, they might even be placed in an important position. Even if they couldn't enter the top 10, as long as they were outstanding enough, they might still be noticed by the lifelong Saint Hall and be entrusted with heavy responsibilities in the future. Is there no one from our Jialan clan participating? Jialan Jiangshan glanced at the experts of the Jialan clan as he asked. All the major powers have sent out their experts. You guys better not disappoint me. As the sound of his voice faded, 5 experts from the Jialan clan immediately stood up and rushed towards the platform. All of them were peak-stage immortal emperors. Jialan Chuyue's beautiful eyes flashed. When she saw the experts from the various powers descending on the platform, she felt a stirring in her heart, wanting to act. Chuyue, your cultivation base is too low. Wait until you break through to the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm before you go. Jialan Yintian spoke to Jialan Chuyue who was beside him. It wasn't so easy to jump levels. This was especially so for those who stepped out. Many of them were already peak-stage immortal emperors, including some of the more dazzling existences in Lifelong City. Let alone Jialan Chuyue, even for the 5 experts from the Jialan clan, it would already be a miracle if one of them could enter the top 10. Yes, Grandpa. Jialan Chuyue's beautiful eyes flashed with disappointment. She glanced at Di Tian beside her and blinked. Seems like this time around, we can only be spectators. Is that so? Di Tian's black eyes flashed with a strange light. Jialan Chuyue suddenly spoke, oh yeah, you still haven't told me your purpose for coming to Lifelong City. Is it also for the sake of spectating the grand banquet this time around? No. Di Tian shook his head. Then why? Jialan Chuyue was puzzled. This fellow, he was already here but he actually denied it. For the sake of participating. Di Tian laughed. After that, he stood up, causing Jialan Chuyue to start. After that, a strange look flashed on her face as she asked, Di Tian, you want to participate? Jialan Yintian also turned his gaze to Di Tian as his eyes gleamed with sharpness. Di Tian wanted to participate. I want to participate. Di Tian nodded. Grandmaster Di, your name is famous throughout Lifefire City for your weaponsmithing. But this is a competition of the martial path. Also, many of the participants are peak-stage Immortal Emperors with outstanding combat prowess, already standing at the peak of the Immortal Emperor realm. Although I don't doubt Grandmaster Di's combat prowess, your cultivation base is still a level lower than mine. Do you want to reconsider? Zhelan Yintian tactfully spoke. Although this battle would end when the victor is determined, it was inevitable that there would be accidental injuries. Di Tian was only a mid-stage Immortal Emperor. If he participated, even if he could retreat safely, he would still be injured. Di Tian, don't tell me you really want to participate. Zhelan Chuyue's beautiful eyes stared at Di Tian. Although this fellow's weaponsmithing abilities were extraordinary, he was still a mid-stage Immortal Emperor after all. In combat, Emperor-ranked weapons weren't allowed to be used. How could he compete against those peak-stage geniuses? Do you not trust me so much? Di Tian asked. It's not that I don't trust you. Although your weaponsmithing abilities are extraordinary, but... Zhelan Chuyue's eyes flashed with anxiety, she didn't know how to persuade him. I'm going. Di Tian didn't say anything more. With a flash of his silhouette, he soared through the air and appeared on the battle platform. Di Tian's appearance attracted the attention of those from the Lifefire Palace. The eyes of many people flashed. Many major powers from the Lifefire Palace came here, they naturally knew of Di Tian's name. The Yen clan, Lu clan, Emo clan, all sent people here. Back then when Lu Feibai challenged Di Tian rejected. But now, he actually stepped onto the Empyrean battle platform. Lu Feibai sat among the people from the Lu clan, his eyes flashing with uncertainty. Is he courting death? The Violet Moon Fairy who was beside the Lifefire Empyrean coldly spoke. She was extremely unhappy that Di Tian was together with the Zhelan clan. Let's see what abilities he has. The Lifefire Empyrean calmly spoke. Chapter 16-17. Di Tian had always been famous in Lifefire City for his weaponsmithing. No one doubted his identity as a weaponsmithing grandmaster, but up until now, he had never fought before. It was only when he went to the Yen clan for the sake of fame did he fight a few battles. After that, he rejected Lu Feibai's challenge. Hence, the people of Lifefire City had no idea how strong Di Tian's combat prowess was. Right now, there were hundreds of experts on the towering platform. All of them were supreme emperors from the major powers of Lifelong City as well as the 9 world palaces. As for ordinary immortal emperors, even if they were at the peak stage, they wouldn't dare to go up casually. From this, one could very well imagine how brutal the battles would be. Under such a situation, even if the people of Lifefire City thought highly of Di Tian's strength, it was impossible for him to stand out. A mid-stage immortal emperor like him could only be cannon fodder. On the contrary, they hoped to see one person. That mysterious person who defeated the 4 governors consecutively, including Xiao Yu. However, this mysterious existence didn't appear. For the battle today, we will stop here. As long as one side concedes, the battle will stop immediately. The rules are very simple, all of you will stand at the periphery and casually step out. You can challenge anyone you want and the last 10 remaining will be the top 10. The protector of the Realm Lord spoke to everyone. There was no need for him to say anything, everyone already knew the rules. The rules of this spar were very liberal and wasn't that strict. Under the eyes of the Realm Lord and other experts, no one would be able to play any tricks. It was very easy to tell who was stronger and who was weaker. Other than the ranking of the top 10, there was no need to do so. If one couldn't win, they would be eliminated. At this moment, a resplendent light suddenly shone from the towering platform in the center. A translucent barrier of light appeared in the surroundings, forming a gigantic formation that protected the platform, preventing the shockwaves from the battle from spreading outwards. A battle between peak-stage immortal emperors would naturally cause ripples to spread far and wide. Hence, this towering platform was like a supreme formation that protected the entire area. At the periphery, many beams of light appeared, transforming into a circular barrier that could envelop a single person. If the participants were to stop their battles, they could sit inside and watch the battle. There was no need to worry about being affected by the shockwaves. Everyone stepped into the hall. Hundreds of people entered the hall. That fellow Di Tian, why must he do this? Zhelan Yuntian sighed. His cultivation base is at the mid-stage of the Immortal Emperor realm, he would surely become the target of others. As long as he fought against him, he would surely lose. Why bother? Maybe there would be a pleasant surprise. Zhelan Yunhai laughed. There might be. Maybe he can jump levels to fight, but that's only against ordinary peak-stage immortal emperors. But in this place, there are so many Empyrean peak-stage immortal emperors. How can he jump levels? Zhelan Yuntian shook his head. It wasn't that he looked down on Di Tian. In fact, he was very confident in Di Tian. If this was a mid-stage immortal emperor battle platform, he was even willing to believe that Di Tian might be able to enter the top 10. Sadly, this wasn't the case. On the platform, a person walked out. This person was at the peak stage of the Immortal Emperor realm and was an expert from the Sword Spirit sect. Di Tian had met him before in the Zhelan clan of Lifelong City. After he walked out, his gaze immediately landed on Di Tian. Back then in the Zhelan clan, there was an expert from the Sword Spirit sect who tried to act against this person but was almost blinded. Now that they encountered each other here, it was clear that this matter had to come to an end. Although it wasn't Di Tian who appeared that day, it was his original self. But to Di Tian, there was no difference. Hence, when he saw the gaze of his opponent, he knew that he had to participate in the first battle. Since you are a weaponsmithing grandmaster, why must you appear on the battle platform of the martial path? This place isn't suitable for you. That peak-stage immortal emperor from the Sword Spirit sect coldly spoke. His gaze was extremely terrifying, like sharp swords that could pierce through one's soul. Qin Wentian has already fought against two experts from the Sword Spirit sect before. One of them was even Xiao Yu. Qin Wentian naturally understood what the Sword Spirit sect was proficient in. His eyes were as black as ink as he calmly spoke, whether it's suitable or not, it naturally isn't determined by words. This fellow. Zhelan Yunhai stared at Di Tian. The one who challenged him is Xiao Mo from the Sword Spirit sect. His strength is extremely powerful, and although he can't be compared to a supreme character like Xiao Yu, it's more than enough to defeat ordinary peak-stage immortal emperors. Zhelan Chuyue's beautiful eyes flashed with worry. Zhelan Yuntian glanced at her and smiled, "Don't worry, even if Di Tian is defeated, his life won't be in danger. He knows his limits." "Who's worried?" Zhelan Chuyue blushed as she denied it. Zhelan Yuntian smiled but didn't say anything. His gaze turned back to the towering platform in the center. Hundreds of experts stood at the edge of the platform. Only Xiao Mo and Di Tian from the Sword Spirit sect stood in the center of the battlefield. Xiao Mo's eyes were as sharp as swords. He had a cold smile on his face as he stepped forward. His soul transformed into sword intent, directly piercing into Di Tian's eyes. Sword chi gushed forth, capable of annihilating souls. Qin Wentian cultivated the undying scripture, his avatar Di Tian was naturally the same as well. The undying scripture focused on the soul, it wasn't a type of law energy. Their hearts and minds were connected and there naturally wouldn't be any problems. Xiao Yu's sword soul couldn't do anything to Qin Wentian, how could Xiao Mo kill Di Tian's soul? He also turned his gaze over. His holy will transformed into a sword soul that directly shot into Xiao Mo's eyes. Between their gazes, there seemed to be a terrifying clash of energies. Bang! Xiao Mo's eyes flashed as a resplendent light shot forth. He stepped forward as strands of sword souls manifested in the air, all of them rushing into Di Tian's body. Although the sword souls weren't as powerful as Xiao Yu's, they were still extremely terrifying. Di Tian's black robes fluttered in the wind as his black hair danced in the wind. His eyes abruptly changed, becoming even more terrifying, resembling an incomparably pitch-black vortex of sealing. Boom, boom, boom. The pitch-black vortex of sealing abruptly appeared in the air, directly sealing the sword souls within. The sword souls struggled violently, but the vortex of sealing shot out from Di Tian's eyes grew more and more terrifying. It was like a pair of eyes of sealing had appeared in the sky, unceasingly radiating a terrifying sealing energy, causing the sword souls to have no way to break free. The entire space trembled violently. This entire space gradually transformed into a world of sealing. Not only did it want to seal the sword souls, it wanted to seal Xiao Mo's own strength as well. When the terrifying sealing light blasted into Xiao Mo's body, the sword light radiating from Xiao Mo's body shone resplendently, trying to resist. However, the sealing light directly enveloped Xiao Mo's sword screen, sealing the entire space within it. Gradually, Xiao Mo's body was being devoured, sealed bit by bit. If this continued, Xiao Mo's entire body would be sealed as well. I admit defeat. Xiao Mo roared. He could no longer sense the astral law energy descending upon him. His resistance grew weaker and weaker while his opponent's strength grew stronger and stronger. If this continued, the consequences would be unimaginable. Di Tian's eyes gleamed with a terrifying light as the boundless sealing law energy instantly dissipated. Everything returned to normal. Xiao Mo's countenance was like dead ashes. From the start to the end, Di Tian didn't even make a move. He merely released his astral law energy from his eyes and Xiao Mo was already defeated. How humiliating was this defeat? What's even more terrifying was that his opponent was merely a mid-stage immortal emperor. This simply caused him to have no face to continue staying here. With a flash of his silhouette, Xiao Mo lowered his head and fled from the platform. He simply didn't have the face to see anyone. The people from the Sword Spirit sect stared at Di Tian, their expressions extremely unsightly. Their Sword Spirit sect's disciple, Xiao Mo, actually suffered such a miserable defeat. It was very hard for them to have a good impression of Di Tian. Not simple. The spectators all sighed in their hearts. As expected, they mustn't underestimate any geniuses. A mid-stage immortal emperor directly used sealing arts to suppress Xiao Mo from the Sword Spirit sect. The people from the Jialan clan were all stunned. Jialan Yintian was even more dumbfounded. He felt that he was already very optimistic about Di Tian. In his heart, he did have a trace of hope for Di Tian's victory. But such an ending still caused him to be stunned. Xiao Mo actually couldn't even withstand a single strike from Di Tian. Such a disparity, whose cultivation base was higher exactly. Was Di Tian really just a genius weaponsmith grandmaster? How ridiculous. Even if his identity as a weaponsmith was removed, Di Tian was still a character at the peak, able to easily display his glory. Seems like I've still underestimated him. Jialan Yuntian sighed. He cast a deep glance at Jialan Chuyue, hoping that she would be able to walk together with Di Tian. At this moment, Jialan Chuyue's beautiful eyes also froze. She thought back to the words Di Tian said when she sent him off. She suddenly felt more and more curious about Di Tian's appearance. His strength caused her to be pleasantly surprised. In that case, his appearance should also be as handsome as he said, right? The people from the Jialan clan stared in the direction of the Li-Fire Empyrean with interest. And as expected, the Li-Fire Empyrean's expression turned unsightly when he saw this scene. His subordinate, Xia Ho, was the same as well. It's just a single victory, it doesn't count for much. Xia Ho coldly spoke. Beauty Xiao, who was at the side, smiled but didn't say anything. This Xia Ho must be extremely unhappy in his heart. Not far away, Lu Feibai's expression grew even more unsightly. Back then when he challenged Grandmaster Di Tian, the Lu clan once spread the news that Di Tian didn't dare to accept the challenge. Now, it seems that Di Tian really didn't dare to accept the challenge. Maybe, Di Tian simply couldn't be bothered to accept the challenge. From the start to the end, this Di Tian had always looked down on him, a genius of the Lu clan. When he thought of this, Lu Feibai clenched his fists tightly, feeling a sense of humiliation. Di Tian himself didn't have the time to care about the thoughts of others. He returned to the light screen at the border of the Lifire Empyrean and very swiftly, more and more people walked out to challenge others. As more and more intense battles erupted, this grand banquet of the martial path was about to begin. This was especially so for those peak-stage immortal emperors from the peak powers. They could be said to be unrivaled in the immortal emperor realm with terrifying combat prowess. When they challenged their opponents, they could insta-kill them, simply tyrannical to the extreme. In such a battlefield, even Di Tian felt waves of pressure gushing over him. Chapter 16-18. Because Di Tian won the first battle, easily defeating a peak-stage immortal emperor from the Sword Spirit sect, no one else challenged him. After all, no one was willing to fight against powerful characters too early. Although, even if Di Tian won this battle, they didn't think that Di Tian would be that powerful. But at the very least, it shouldn't be a problem for him to be in the top 100. And there were several hundred people here, even if all of them were discussing the battle, it was enough to guarantee Di Tian's safety. Everyone would choose an opponent they had more confidence in. Unless, there was someone intentionally targeting Di Tian. Time slowly flowed by. Di Tian continued to spectate and saw many powerful characters that were worthy of his attention. Although those governors didn't participate in this battle, they still couldn't be underestimated. There were many of them, and they were all characters from the peak powers of Lifelong City. Finally, as the violent battles continued, the number of figures on the light screen at the edge of the platform decreased. There were only a few hundred people left. As for mid-stage immortal emperors, there were almost no traces of them left. Only 3 of them remained, and all of them were extremely powerful mid-stage immortal emperors. If not, they wouldn't have survived until now. When there were only 100 people left on the platform, there was a momentary pause. No one stepped out. This was a free-for-all battle, one could choose whether to step out or not. If you were too weak, you wouldn't be able to evade. But if you were very strong, there was no need for you to step out. Naturally, no one would dare to act against you. Even if there were, when you were challenged, you could directly crush your opponent. Right now, those who remained on the platform all felt that they were extremely powerful elites. None of them were willing to step out to challenge others. This was why the current situation was like this. 3 mid-stage immortal emperors, it's time to leave the battlefield. Are you guys still not coming out? Are you waiting for others to challenge you? A tyrannical voice rang out. The person who spoke was an expert from one of the peak powers in Lifelong City, the Sky Law sect. He was extremely powerful and had a well-proportioned physique, resembling an unshakable war god. Before this, he had participated in 2 battles. For these 2 battles, he only used 1 move and 3 moves respectively, injuring 2 peak-stage immortal emperors. It's the Blackhand Immortal Emperor, an Empyrean-level immortal emperor from the Sky Law sect. His strength can be ranked within the top 30. Seems like he is preparing to eliminate the 3 mid-stage immortal emperors first. Someone spoke in a low voice. Since the Blackhand Immortal Emperor said this, I think the other 3 mid-stage immortal emperors would be the first to be eliminated. Di Tian's eyes flashed as he glanced at the Blackhand Immortal Emperor. As for the other 2 mid-stage immortal emperors, a cold light flashed in their eyes. One of them spoke, who says that those with lower cultivation bases have to leave. Given your cultivation bases, many people have already given you face for being able to reach this stage. When you all break through to the peak stage of the Immortal Emperor realm, you might have a chance to display your brilliance on the battle platform. But right now, it's still far from enough. The voice of the Black-Hand Immortal Emperor was cold. The other mid-stage Immortal Emperor coldly laughed. Since this is the case, I will have to seek guidance from the Black-Hand Immortal Emperor. After speaking, that mid-stage Immortal Emperor stepped out, actually challenging the Black-Hand Immortal Emperor. The eyes of the Black-Hand Immortal Emperor were extremely cold. After that, he stepped out and stretched out both his palms, which actually turned black. Devil might gushed forth frenziedly as numerous black arms manifested, like illusions. Bolts of black lightning manifested in the air as tens of thousands of arms danced about at the same time, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. The Heaven Luo saber of the Heaven Luo sect is infused with devil attribute energy, it's incomparably tyrannical. The hearts of everyone trembled. That mid-stage Immortal Emperor also had a heavy expression on his face. Although he couldn't help but step out to challenge the Black-Hand Immortal Emperor, in truth, he also knew how terrifying the Black-Hand Immortal Emperor was. This was especially so when he faced the Black-Hand Immortal Emperor head-on. When he saw the gigantic black arms, he felt a sense of apocalypse. "Are you sure you want to fight?" The Black-Hand Immortal Emperor's voice was cold to the extreme. The tens of thousands of black arms enveloped the area, resembling an inescapable net. Countless devil sabers of darkness gleamed with destructive light, wreaking havoc in the air, tearing apart everything. That mid-stage Immortal Emperor stood there with an unsightly expression on his face. His body was trembling, he regretted his impulsiveness earlier. Only when he truly faced the Black-Hand Immortal Emperor did he truly understand how strong he was. "I admit defeat." It was like he had made an extremely difficult decision. That mid-stage Immortal Emperor spoke. The destructive light in the air instantly dissipated, like it had never appeared before. The Black-Hand Immortal Emperor glanced at Di Tian and the other mid-stage Immortal Emperor as he coldly asked, "What about the two of you?" The expression of the other Immortal Emperor changed, turning extremely unsightly. Di Tian also frowned as he calmly spoke, "Do you like to meddle in other people's business?" The Black-Hand Immortal Emperor glanced at Di Tian as black saber light flashed in his eyes. "Scram out here." Di Tian frowned. After that, he slowly stepped out. Everyone sighed in their hearts when they saw this scene. Seems like the Black-Hand Immortal Emperor wanted to expel the three mid-stage Immortal Emperors from the battlefield first. Mid-stage Immortal Emperors are ultimately still too weak and would be easily targeted. Although he domineeringly defeated the Sword Spirit Sect's Xiao Mo, causing no one to challenge him for a long period of time, he still wouldn't be able to escape. Zhelan Yintian spoke in a low voice. "Maybe, there might be a pleasant surprise." Zhelan Chuyue spoke in a light voice. Before this, she also felt that Di Tian wouldn't be able to hold on for too long. But after that battle, her confidence in Di Tian grew by a lot. Hence, she started to have some fantasies. It's difficult. This time, it's the Black-Hand Immortal Emperor. He isn't Xiao Mo. In this battlefield, the Black-Hand Immortal Emperor should be able to enter the top 30. Zhelan Yunhai spoke. He had a deeper understanding of the major characters in the lifelong realm. This Black-Hand Immortal Emperor was an extremely powerful character in the Skynet sect. How could he not know about him? The Black-Hand Immortal Emperor was far stronger compared to Xiao Mo. In fact, one could even say that the two of them weren't on the same level. If Xiao Mo had the combat prowess of someone in the top 100, the Black-Hand Immortal Emperor had the combat prowess of someone in the top 30. The disparity was simply too great. Zhelan Chuyue's lips twitched as she stared at the battlefield ahead. The Black-Hand Immortal Emperor had already acted the moment Di Tian stepped out. When the black arms shot out like a heavenly net, even the wind and rain couldn't penetrate through. Many people were stifled. Seems like this D. Tian's words had clearly offended the Blackhand Immortal Emperor. He wanted to be ruthless, not even giving him a chance to concede. Xia Ho coldly laughed when he saw this scene. Using the Zhelan clan to come to Lifelong City, wanting to become famous? How can it be so easy? D. Tian inclined his head as a dazzling light flashed in his eyes. The terrifying eye of sealing shot out resplendent sealing light, transforming into a law domain that sealed this entire space. In an instant, a terrifying sealing energy manifested above D. Tian, sealing this entire space. That fearsome destructive saber light directly slashed downwards, yet it only slammed into the sealing energy, shattering it unceasingly. D. Tian stepped out as boundless runic light flashed in the air, revolving around him. Very swiftly, D. Tian's entire person was enveloped by the sealing energy, as though he was trapped in an abyss. When the Blackhand Immortal Emperor shattered the sealing energy, D. Tian actually didn't hesitate to rush towards his opponent's terrifying attack. At this moment, when the boundless destructive black lightning blasted down, it actually directly sank into the sealing abyss. D. Tian's palm blasted out a sealing gate. This sealing gate was filled with astral light and was incomparably deep. It seemed like there was a 10,000-meter space within it, and all attacks that fell into it were all sealed within. Go! D. Tian blasted it out. The sealing gate directly shot into the chaotic killing intent of the heaven net dimension, shuttling through the raging wind and torrential rain as it expanded unceasingly, devouring all the attacks and seals. It was like a bolt of lightning shooting towards the Blackhand Immortal Emperor. The eyes of the Blackhand Immortal Emperor flashed. He gathered boundless astral light as devil might towered up into the sky. Another heaven net saber art slashed out, wanting to destroy everything in this world. There was no truly invincible power. Although this sealing gate looked terrifying, as long as the attack was strong enough, it would definitely be able to shatter it. The Blackhand Immortal Emperor had cultivated for so many years, he didn't doubt this at all. Just like what the Blackhand Immortal Emperor had expected, the powerful attack slammed down, shattering the sealing gate. However, this wasn't the end. D. Tian's eyes turned incomparably terrifying, directly boring into the Blackhand Immortal Emperor. Saint-level sword intent directly pierced through him, accompanied by soul attacks. The Blackhand Immortal Emperor's entire body trembled violently. After that, he saw a pair of gigantic eyes of sealing as the sealing energy from the attacks continued to corrode his body. He roared loudly as a violent devil might ravage the heavens and earth. His saber light slashed out once more, wanting to destroy everything. However, D. Tian's silhouette flickered, evading the terrifying saber attack. His eyes were still fixated on the Blackhand Immortal Emperor, causing his energy to weaken unceasingly. Domain. D. Tian roared. The eyes of sealing sealed this entire space, cutting off the astral light. The countenance of the Blackhand Immortal Emperor turned extremely unsightly. D. Tian was slowly devouring his energy bit by bit. Boom! Exuding an extremely violent might, the Blackhand Immortal Emperor soared through the air, appearing before D. Tian. His many illusory arms slashed out at the same time, causing the entire space to be filled with deathly lightning. However, at this moment, a terrifying demonic might erupted from D. Tian. It was like a supremely powerful greater demon had awoken. The shadow of the Xuanwu tortoise appeared, protecting him, allowing the attacks to land on him. D. Tian's eyes of sealing continued to attack unceasingly, causing the Blackhand Immortal Emperor's strength to grow weaker and weaker. Puchi. A fearsome bolt of holy will penetrated through. The Blackhand Immortal Emperor screamed in misery as blood flowed from his eyes. His defenses were instantly destroyed, and after that, the sword intent ravaged his body, causing it to tremble uncontrollably as blood flowed out from his wounds. I admit defeat. The Blackhand Immortal Emperor screamed in misery. D. Tian retracted his attack, and after that, the body of the Blackhand Immortal Emperor slammed into the ground, emitting a heavy thud. Why the need to jump out? Di Tian's eyes were as deep as ever. He glanced at the Blackhand Immortal Emperor on the ground before he turned and returned to his seat, as though nothing had happened at all. However, the impact of this battle to the spectators was truly immense. This battle meant that Di Tian had a chance to enter the top 30. In fact, he even had a chance to enter the top 10. In the following battles, there would surely be no one who would dare to challenge him. Chapter 16-19. The Blackhand Immortal Emperor was in an extremely miserable state. His cultivation base was terrifying. The famous Supreme Immortal Emperor of the Skynet sect was heavily injured. He staggered down the platform, forming a stark contrast to his earlier arrogant attitude. The victor, Di Tian, was as calm as ever. It was like defeating the Blackhand Immortal Emperor was an insignificant matter. There was nothing to brag about. He closed his eyes and meditated, not bothering about anything else. At this moment, the gazes of everyone changed when they stared at him. They knew that this man was someone they mustn't antagonize easily. The people of the Jialan clan in Lifefire City were all dumbfounded. Too powerful, so powerful that it surpassed their expectations. Was this really that Grandmaster Weaponsmith Di Tian who had never acted before? His combat prowess had actually reached such a level. Grandpa, do you think you will be able to enter the top 10 and obtain the Realm Lord's reward? Jialan Chuyue's beautiful eyes gleamed even brighter as she asked Jialan Yintian. Jialan Yintian was speechless. He didn't know what to say. The top 10 was naturally difficult, it was simply too difficult. There were at least 10 to 20 terrifying characters from the peak powers here and they were all popular contenders for the top 10. It was extremely difficult for a mid-stage Immortal Emperor to contend against them. However, he had already made 2 wrong predictions. Could he really treat Di Tian as an ordinary mid-stage Immortal Emperor? Every time he felt that Di Tian couldn't do it, Di Tian would always give him an intense surprise, using absolute strength to prove his strength. In that battle earlier, the Blackhand Immortal Emperor seemed to be the victor for sure. He was a Supreme Immortal Emperor from the Skynet sect. No matter how he thought about it, he felt that Di Tian, a mid-stage Immortal Emperor, had no hope at all. But what was the result? Right now, he couldn't be certain anymore. He couldn't help but to bitterly smile and shake his head. I don't know. The battles continued. Other than Di Tian, the other mid-stage Immortal Emperor was soon eliminated. Other than Qin Wentian, the rest were all peak-stage Immortal Emperors. In addition, there were some existences who had already locked onto the top 10 rankings. For example, Xianyuan Heavenly Dipper of the Xianyuan clan. His heavenly protective barrier was incomparably tyrannical, capable of transforming into 10,000 weapons to attack. He was like an undefeatable war god. Although given his strength, there was no need for him to step out to challenge others and no one would dare to touch him, he still stepped out several times to temper his strength, suppressing his opponents with a single strike. There was also the Divine Dragon Sect's Heavenly Dragon Saint Child. He could be said to be terrifying, able to summon heavenly dragons to fight. His power was boundless, and he was undefeatable. Jian Yi of the Sword Spirit sect was someone who was equally famous as Xiao Yu in the past. His combat strength was extraordinary, but he was much older than Xiao Yu. Hence, he didn't have the title of a genius like Xiao Yu. The Violet Sun Immortal Emperor, the disciple of the Poison Saint, young noble Seizing Heart, the young master of the Sun Moon Villa, the disciples of the Setting Sun Academy's Book Saint, all of these Empyreans were extremely powerful. There were immortal emperors who had cultivated for many years, as well as supreme geniuses of the immortal emperors. Every one of them was extremely powerful and was believed to be able to get into the top 10. If one wanted to get into the top 10, they would have to trample on them to advance. One could very well imagine the difficulty. After Di Tian domineeringly defeated the Blackhand Immortal Emperor, no one else dared to challenge him. Gradually, the number of people on the battle platform grew fewer and fewer. After so many battles, only 30 remained. However, at this moment, the battle had also reached its climax. Every clash would cause the heavens to collapse and the earth to crack. If not for the great formation protecting the stage, the might of the battle would have spread to the vast area of the Immortal Palace. He's in the top 30 now. Zhelan Shuya actually felt a sense of nervousness in her heart. Di Tian only used 2 battles to enter the top 30. If one of his participants was eliminated in each battle, there would only be 15 participants remaining after a round of battles and they would only be a step away from the top 10. Unless Di Tian encountered a situation where he was continuously challenged by others. In that case, it could only be said that his opponents all felt that he was weak. Another battle erupted, only 29 participants remained on the battle platform. At this moment, an imposing figure akin to a divinity stepped out. His body was extremely large, transforming into a giant. His eyes were terrifying to the extreme, gleaming with white light. Every step he took caused the entire platform to tremble. The gatekeeper of the ancient tomb Holy Mausoleum. In Lifelong City, there was a mysterious sect called the Ancient Tomb Sect. Experts were as common as the clouds and they resided in the Holy Mausoleum. The person before them was none other than the tomb keeper. Normally, it was extremely rare for him to come out. But now, because of the grand banquet this time around, he actually came to participate. The eyes of the tomb keeper flashed, directly landing on Di Tian as he spoke, "You, come out." The gazes of everyone froze. Among the remaining participants, Di Tian was definitely a unique existence. His cultivation base was the lowest among them, only at the mid-stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. But even now, he was still able to remain on the battlefield and wasn't eliminated. This could already be considered a miracle. Right now, the tomb keeper actually challenged him. This mid-stage Immortal Emperor should have already left the battle platform, right? When they thought of how powerful this tomb keeper was, an expression of interest appeared on the faces of everyone. What would happen if he fought against Di Tian's sealing arts? Di Tian stepped out only to see that the tomb keeper didn't say anything. The tomb keeper's eyes turned white as emperor light cascaded down from the sky. The white light transformed into boundless petrification law energy and in an instant, everything turned to stone. Di Tian only felt his body growing increasingly stiff, as though he was about to be petrified. Terrifying law energy circulated around him, blocking the corrosion of the petrification energy. However, the petrification law energy that cascaded down from the sky turned the entire space into stone. It was like a gigantic boulder had completely enveloped the space Di Tian was in. That white eye was simply too terrifying, it was capable of petrifying everything. A thunderous rumbling sound rang out. The tomb keeper stepped out, causing the space around him to tremble. He lifted his gigantic palm and blasted out a punch towards the petrified space before him. This punch caused the space around him to tremble, causing a thunderous boom to ring out. The petrification caused a terrifying shockwave, wanting to destroy Di Tian's body as well. How tyrannical was this? Zhelan Chuyue's countenance instantly turned pale. Before this, she still held an intense hope, hoping that Di Tian would be able to create a miracle and kill his way into the top 10. But when she saw the tomb keeper truly acting, only then did she understand how terrifying these remaining participants were. Right now, she only had a single hope, Di Tian was still alive. This strike was sufficient to shatter the petrified space, capable of shattering everything, including Di Tian's body. The petrification space continued to crumble as the law energy in it surged. Within it, a figure slowly appeared. He was in an independent sealed space and actually managed to seal himself within, not shattering. The eyes of the tomb keeper flashed. The white light in his eyes grew even more terrifying as he shot towards Di Tian. A pair of sealing eyes appeared behind Di Tian, absorbing the light from the constellations. Boundless sealing light shot out, clashing against the petrification energy in the air. The laws of petrification and the laws of sealing clashed against each other. Crisp cracking sounds rang out unceasingly as the area of petrification expanded unceasingly, wanting to completely envelop the space Dtion was in. As for the laws of sealing, they transformed into a terrifying grand sealing formation that fought against the petrification energy. When the Tomb Keeper saw that he couldn't do anything to Dtion, he stomped on the ground and punched out, shattering everything, shattering both the laws of petrification and the laws of sealing. His palm grabbed through space, incomparably tyrannical, directly transforming into a giant spirit hand that grabbed towards Dtion. The laws of petrification instantly petrified the space under the attack of the Tomb Keeper. Dtion's law energy soared up into the sky as a sealing gate appeared, capable of devouring everything. Within it, the terrifying palm imprint was sealed within as it blasted towards the Tomb Keeper. At the same time, a terrifying spatial diagram flew out from his body, sweeping through the air, transforming into a gigantic diagram of the heavens and earth. This diagram was complete and was like a supreme emperor weapon, sealing this entire space. Emperor light frenziedly cascaded down on the diagram. This was the light of sealing, yet it was able to isolate the petrification law energy of the Tomb Keeper. MHM. The Tomb Keeper inclined his head and roared in rage. Boundless sound waves rocked the space, destroying everything in its path as they blasted into the diagram. However, the terrifying shockwaves seemed to have been sealed as well. Boundless sealing light radiated from the diagram, frenziedly extending outwards. The Tomb Keeper discovered that it was getting harder and harder for him to control the laws of heaven and earth. This entire space was filled with the light of the Great Tao, sealing all the law energy in this space. He roared loudly and directly lunged towards Dtion. Clearly, he knew that he had to end this battle as soon as possible. If this continued, it would be extremely disadvantageous to him. How could Dtion give him a chance? The sealing gate appeared once more and flew forward, wanting to seal the Tomb Keeper within it. The Tomb Keeper didn't fear it at all and continued to attack frenziedly, forcefully shattering the sealing gate. However, the sealing light that cascaded down grew more and more intense, starting to corrode his body. He inclined his head as his eyes gleamed with the light of petrification. He was no longer able to block the might of the Tomb Keeper. The Tomb Keeper is about to lose. Many people silently mused when they saw this scene. Great waves rose in their hearts. Dtion's sealing abilities were actually so powerful to such an extent that even the Tomb Keeper of the Holy Tomb couldn't do anything to him. Just like what everyone had predicted, the Tomb Keeper continued his attacks. Dtion was merely trying to exhaust him. Finally, the Tomb Keeper gave up and admitted his defeat. He was incomparably dispirited. For this battle, Dtion was still the victor. A mid-stage Immortal Emperor once again displayed his overwhelming combat prowess. Compared to his weaponsmithing techniques, Dtion's combat prowess wasn't inferior at all. Xia Ho's heart trembled. The eyes of the Li-Fire Empyrean also gleamed with a strange light. Dtion was so powerful. If this continued on, he might really be able to enter the top 10. Next, the battles continued to erupt. Every single battle would result in someone being eliminated. Dtion's victory over the Tomb Keeper once again shocked many people. After another round of battles ended, unknowingly, there were only 15 people left on the tall platform. As long as another 5 were eliminated, the top 10 would be born. Zhelan Yintian's heart trembled. He spoke in a low voice, maybe, he only needs one more battle and he would be able to enter the top 10. Top 10. Zhelan Chuyue's beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light. Next, more battles erupted. What caused the people of the Zhelan clan to be shocked was that there was still no one who challenged Dtion. In the blink of an eye, only 11 participants remained. The 11 participants on the platform all fell silent, no one took the initiative to step out. If there was no one who challenged Dtion, he would directly enter the top 10. There wouldn't even be a need for a single battle. Chapter 1620. On the vast battlefield, only 11 people remained. The entire space fell into a state of silence once more. Right now, the remaining 11 were all supreme immortal emperors. They were either famous peak-stage immortal emperors or supreme geniuses, exuding boundless magnificence. The weakest among the 11 was none other than the mid-stage immortal emperor Di Tian. But even so, Di Tian was still very famous in Lifefire City. Apart from Di Tian, the other 10 were all experts that had been nurtured by the various factions of Longevity City. From this, one could very well imagine how powerful Lifelong City was as the absolute center of the Lifelong Realm. Over here, all the major powers gathered here. Those powerful characters naturally originated from there. The remaining people were all very proud and confident, but they weren't arrogant. They also knew how strong each other was. Other than a few extremely arrogant individuals who didn't need to fight and no one dared to challenge them, the other few didn't have absolute confidence in defeating the others. Right now, they were only a step away from the top 10, they only needed to eliminate one person. At this moment, they naturally wanted stability and wouldn't act recklessly. Although there was only a single rank difference between the top 10 rankers and the 11th ranker, the meaning was completely different. This time around, the lifelong Realm Lord would only reward the top 10 rankers. As for the 11th ranker, he would be a failure and would be forgotten by everyone. Even if he managed to attract the attention of the lifelong Saint Hall because of his strength, his name would eventually be forgotten in history. For this once 100-year grand banquet, his name would no longer exist and his name would be a part of his history. After a moment of silence, no one spoke. Only Xianyuan Tian Gang from the Xianyuan clan spoke. Staying silent isn't a solution. Ultimately, two people have to go out to fight. Could it be that I really have to go out and challenge one of them? If that's the case, don't blame me if I end up challenging someone. This voice was extremely tyrannical and direct. Clearly, Xianyuan Tian Gang was extremely confident and felt that he shouldn't be eliminated. In truth, he was originally a character at the peak and was extremely terrifying. The majority of people here understood that if Xianyuan Tian Gang chose them, there was an 80 to 90% chance that they would be eliminated. Hence, it was best not to let Xianyuan Tian Gang fight. Nobody knew who he would choose. That's right, just go out yourself. Jian Yi from the Sword Spirit sect also spoke. He closed his eyes as he spoke, but his tone was filled with a domineering aura, giving off an incomparably confident feeling. Of the 11, the one with the lowest cultivation level can come out and challenge anyone. If he wins, he'll be in the top 10. If he loses, he'll be eliminated. The Holy Son of the Divine Dragon Cult spoke. Although he did not name anyone, who did not know who he was referring to. Out of the 11 people here, only one was at the mid-stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. The one with the lowest cultivation base was clearly Di Tian. He wanted Di Tian to take the initiative to choose one of his opponents. Di Tian opened his eyes and glanced at the Heaven Dragon Holy Sun. Why don't you come out and pick the person yourself? Why do you need someone else to come out? If you want to challenge me, I don't mind. This was already a provocation. The Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun's expression was like that of a demon, incomparably tyrannical. His eyes were like the eyes of a divine dragon as he said, I gave you the initiative, yet you don't know what's good for you. If that's the case, then I have to thank you. Di Tian coldly laughed. Before this, there were already many who felt that those with low cultivation bases should be eliminated. Look at the result. Now, you actually still have such thoughts. In that case, I'll grant you your wish. As he spoke, Di Tian walked out from the light screen. He directly turned his gaze to the Heaven Dragon Saint Sun, I'll choose you then. The Heaven Dragon Saint Sun's eyes gleamed with a terrifying demonic light. Among the top 10, other than Di Tian, he was definitely not the weakest. He believed that Di Tian himself could tell this as well. Xianyuan Tiangang and Sword Ion have already spoken. Hence, the tyrannical heaven dragon Saint Sun directly named Di Tian, allowing him to challenge one of his opponents. But he didn't expect that Di Tian would be so impulsive, directly choosing him. Could it be that Di Tian didn't know the danger of doing so? Or maybe, he didn't care about being in the top 10. Grandmaster Di is truly arrogant. Zhelan Yunhai sighed. Zhelan Yuntian nodded lightly. His brows suddenly furrowed as though he was contemplating something. He naturally knew that Di Tian was an extremely arrogant person. This point could be seen from the commotion he caused in Lifefire City. Even Xia Ho didn't manage to make Di Tian submit, causing a storm of commotion. The scandal of the governor's manor spread throughout Lifefire City. After that, his Zhelan clan made a move to threaten Di Tian, eventually forcing Di Tian to compromise and stand on their side. At that time, he was still extremely complacent, and in addition to his friendship with Di Tian, as well as his relationship with Zhelan Chuyue, he gradually forgot how he forced Di Tian to submit. But as his understanding of Di Tian grew deeper and deeper, as well as the powerful talent and combat prowess Di Tian displayed, Zhelan Yuntian suddenly felt that something was wrong. It was too simple. Back then, Di Tian's compromise with the Zhelan clan was too simple. This shouldn't be the case. Such a proud person, a genius with extraordinary weaponsmithing abilities, as well as the ability to jump levels to fight. Even if he was in Lifelong City, he could easily choose a major power to join and become a core member, being nurtured heavily. It didn't matter even if he had to abandon his Emperor Pavilion. There was no need for him to lower his head to the Zhelan clan unless he had something important to do in Lifefire City. In addition, he could only depend on himself. When he thought of this, Zhelan Yuntian's brows furrowed even tighter. He glanced at Zhelan Chuyue beside him and called out, "Chuyue." Zhelan Chuyue was currently paying attention to the battlefield. When she heard Zhelan Yuntian's words, she turned her gaze over and asked, "Grandpa, what's wrong?" Staring at the bright light in Zhelan Chuyue's eyes, Zhelan Yuntian could faintly sense that his granddaughter was about to fall into the trap. Let alone Zhelan Chuyue, even he himself had almost fallen into the trap. When he thought of this, he felt fear in his heart. As the clan leader of the Zhelan clan, he shouldn't lose his judgment. Nothing much. Zhelan Yuntian wanted to say something but hesitated. Let's just watch the battle. Zhelan Chuyue nodded lightly. Although she felt puzzled, she soon forgot about it. Her gaze was filled with nervousness as she stared at the battlefield. Over there, the heaven dragon Saint Child radiated a towering demonic chi as numerous terrifying demonic dragons were summoned over, blotting out the sky. However, Di Tian also released his astral soul. Astral light cascaded downwards as supreme greater demons descended from the heavens. There were true dragons, vermilion birds, kirans, great rocks, primal chaos, divine elephants, etc. For a period of time, the entire sky and earth trembled violently. The heaven dragon Saint Child frowned. Di Tian was actually able to summon greater demons to battle. He coldly snorted as an incomparably gigantic divine dragon descended from the sky. Its golden claws tore through space, directly aiming for Di Tian's body. The greater demons around Di Tian gathered together, forming a terrifying demonic domain. With a roar of rage, countless greater demons appeared, resembling a vortex of darkness, slowly swallowing the gigantic divine dragon. Screams of misery rang out from within before they gradually dissipated. Di Tian's body was surrounded by the greater demons, and the greater demons around him all gathered together, forming a terrifying demonic domain. Di Tian's body flowed with terrifying demonic bloodline energy, transforming into a fearsome blood-colored light. His entire person was like a demon god, and he who was wearing a mask appeared even more mysterious and terrifying. Di Tian's silhouette flashed as he directly vanished from sight. A gate of sealing manifested, containing an incomparably deep dimension within, directly blasting towards the heaven dragon Saint Child, wanting to seal him within. The heaven dragon Saint Child roared in rage. Terrifying demonic dragons frenziedly rushed out, clashing against the greater demons around Tian. A terrifying storm ravaged the heavens and earth, wanting to annihilate everything. Tian's eyes shot out, penetrating through the heaven dragon Saint Child's eyes. Soul attacks, holy will attacks, and sealing light simultaneously erupted forth, even more tyrannical compared to before. The heaven dragon Saint Child's entire person seemed to have transformed, becoming even stronger. The heaven dragon Saint Child roared unceasingly. He felt an incomparably intense threat. He was actually being ruthlessly suppressed. Tian's astral souls flashed, the heaven dragon Saint Child's body resembled a dragon, becoming incomparably gigantic. However, Tian's eyes grew more and more terrifying. His sealing astral souls appeared, sealing everything. Boundless sealing light gushed forth, sealing the demonic dragons, as well as the laws of heaven and earth. In fact, even the energy in the heaven dragon Saint Child's body was sealed. He frenziedly tried to defend, but the sealing light was endless, sealing everything. No one could block it. Tian's gaze was extremely terrifying. The 8 greater demons circled around him, exuding an unexcelled aura. He stepped out and coldly punched out, directly wanting to crush everything. With a thunderous boom, the heaven dragon Saint Child was struck. He screamed in pain as fresh blood gushed forth as he was directly flung through the air. After blasting the heaven dragon Saint Child away, Tian swept his gaze over to the others. Is there anyone else who isn't satisfied with a low-level cultivator like me standing here? You can speak now. I will directly challenge him. His tyrannical voice caused the expressions of everyone to freeze. They were actually speechless. The heaven dragon Saint Child was so powerful, yet he was suppressed so easily. This Tian grew stronger and stronger as he fought. He was like a bottomless pit. They didn't know how powerful he was at his full strength. They naturally wouldn't act recklessly. Seeing that no one spoke, Tian retracted his aura and returned to his original position. He silently mused, I was a little impulsive. Although this is the supreme ancient immortal realms, I still have to be more careful. The power he unleashed was completely the same as Qin Wenqian's in the past. If they were in the Azure Mystic Immortal realms, people would surely know that they were the same person. But now, the path that Qin Wenqian's original body was walking on was completely different. This was especially so after the original body cultivated his astral souls. The disparity between them was extremely great. Even if the original body removed his mask, no one would believe that they were the same person. However, no one in the supreme ancient immortal realms knew of him. Hence, it didn't matter if he revealed himself once. He just had to be more careful in the future. Chapter 1621. Tian slaughtered his way into the top 10 with his mid-stage Immortal Emperor cultivation base. Nobody said anything. Tian was the first to walk out. His gaze landed on the poisoned saint's disciple. The other party instantly understood his intention and slowly walked out. The Ziyang Immortal Emperor also walked out. He challenged a supreme Immortal Emperor. After tens of thousands of years of cultivation, the Ziyang Immortal Emperor's terrifying cultivation base and law domain. He relied on his tyrannical attacks to defeat his opponent, resulting in the birth of the number 10 ranker. With a chi sound, as the sound of the word concede rang out, his body was directly flung through the air as he fell onto the ground. His face turned pale as he coldly glanced at Tian. After that, he stood up and returned to his seat. Realm Lord, Tian came together with the Jialan clan and came from Lifire City. Before this, a governor of Lifire City had an exchange with him and there seems to be some conflict between them. Earlier, I've also noticed the discussions in the Lifire Palace. This Tian seems to be a weaponsmithing grandmaster. The people from Lifire City didn't even know that his combat prowess is so strong. A person at the side spoke. The poison saint's disciple was clad in white. There was no poison chi around him and he looked extremely elegant and carefree. No matter how you looked at him, you wouldn't be able to tell that he was a peak stage immortal emperor. But if you neglected him, that would be the most fatal. His poison was formless and invisible, it would corrode into one's body, entering one's internal organs and even one's soul. The top 10 were determined but the battle still had to continue. The rules remained the same, it was still a free-for-all battle. Whoever was the first to be eliminated would be ranked at the bottom. Although this might not be fair, this banquet used martial arts to liven things up, it wasn't for the sake of absolute fairness. Next, everyone would have to depend on their own methods. The remaining people all felt more and more terrifying. For the top 10 characters, no matter what their ranking was, they would all be rewarded by the Realm Lord. One could very well imagine that the lifelong Saint Hall would view them highly. At that time, there was a high possibility that they would use D. Tian. This would be of great help to D. Tian's future. After this battle, the disciple of the Book Saint was determined to be the number 4 ranker. After that, the disciple of the Setting Sun Academy challenged the young master of the Sun Moon Villa and defeated him. The number 9 ranker was determined. Invisible streams of air flowed in the air, almost undetectable. Facing an expert like the Saint of Poison's disciple, if you simply assumed that the poison gas was black and roiling, you would die a miserable death. This battle seemed to be the easiest one for him, but it was this battle that allowed him to enter the top 3. After that, the Saint Poison's disciple defeated an opponent, and the 8th rank appeared. This Grandmaster D isn't simple at all. In the direction of the Xianyuan clan, Xianyuan Hao spoke in a low voice. D. Tian's weaponsmithing and martial arts were both so terrifying. These 6 people were Xianyuan Tian Gang, Sword Ion, Immortal Emperor Zi Yang, Poison Saint's disciple, Calligrapher's disciple, and D. Tian. How did D. Tian survive until now? This was because he had crushed all those who doubted him and wanted him to be eliminated, including the Saint Son of the Sky Dragon clan. If you couldn't do it, you would be eliminated. Therefore, to be able to make it to this stage of the auction was definitely not luck, but true strength. After that, Xianyuan Tian Gang walked out. Immortal Emperor Zi Yang did the same. Since both sides had silently agreed to it, they had to fight even if they didn't want to. For glory. It wasn't the top 3, but the actual ranking. They believed that D. Tian would be ranked 3rd. The last 3 remaining were Xianyuan Tian Gang from the Xianyuan clan, Sword Ion from the Sword Spirit sect, and D. Tian from the Lifefire city. Sword Ion also walked out. He glanced at D. Tian but ultimately, he didn't choose D. Tian as his opponent. He chose young noble Seizing Heart instead. The two of them fought intensely, sword chi permeated the air, and eventually, Sword Ion relied on his fearsome swordsmanship to defeat his opponent. The 7th rank was born. This battle could be said to be the most soul-stirring battle up until now. You actually dared to be so careless when challenging me? The Saint Poison's disciple stared at D. Tian. As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying poison chi enveloped this entire space. The formless poison chi seemed to have completely drilled out from the air, becoming sinister and terrifying. In just an instant, the normal flow of air transformed into a world of poison. Also, the Saint Poison's disciple could already sense that the poison chi had already invaded D. Tian's body. If things were really like what Xianyuan Tian Gang said, there would be 2 more people who would be eliminated. D. Tian wouldn't be one of the challengers. This meant that D. Tian would be one of the top 3 rankers. It's hard to say. Even now, I feel that he hasn't used his full strength yet. Maybe, there's hope for him to be one of the top 3 rankers. Jian Lizi's silhouette flashed as he directly walked out. He wanted to challenge someone from the Scholars sect. This scene caused the expression of the Zi Yang Immortal Emperor to stiffen. Jian Lizi was a step ahead of him. He also wanted to challenge someone from the Scholars sect because it would be much easier to deal with someone from the Scholars sect compared to Xianyuan Tiangang. Jian Lizi also had the same thoughts, hence, he was a step faster than him. This battle was extremely violent and intense, even more tyrannical compared to the earlier battles. However, it wasn't that evenly matched. Although it was tyrannical, the degree of intensity was slightly lower. Xianyuan Tiangang held the advantage from the start to the end. Finally, he tyrannically defeated the Ziyang Immortal Emperor and became one of the top 3 rankers. In an instant, the countenance of the Saint Poison's disciple turned extremely unsightly to behold. This battle was also extremely intense. Sword chi and scrolls of scrolls filled the air as resplendent astral light flashed. Boundless sword techniques could be seen, the sword spirits of ancient sages seemed to have come from the primordial era. The scrolls of scrolls contained a myriad of laws of the great Tao, exuding boundless might. Although the Saint Poison's disciple didn't wish to face Xianyuan Tiangang, how could he be weak? The battle between the two of them was extremely intense and finally, Jian Lizi won by a hair's breadth. The continuous intense battles caused the spectators to be unable to take it all in. All of them exclaimed in admiration. For those who were eliminated, none of them were weaklings. One could only say that their luck was bad, their opponents were much stronger than them. There are still 6 people remaining. Let's split into groups of 2 and the top 3 rankers will be determined. Xianyuan Tiangang casually spoke, his meaning was that all 6 of them had to participate in the battles. Just nice, there were 3 groups of 2 and 3 would be eliminated. Since you know I'm the one challenging you, how dare you be so careless? Di Tian returned the words of the Saint Poison's disciple. His eyes gleamed with a terrifying sharpness as his sword chi ravaged the body of the Saint Poison's disciple. The Saint Poison's disciple groaned in misery as he coughed out fresh blood. He then spoke in a low voice, I concede. The lifelong Realm Lord smiled and nodded, which rank do you think he will be able to enter? Being able to be ranked number 3 was already something to be proud of. He should be proud of himself, right? This caused the Ziyang Immortal Emperor to silently curse. This sword Ion was truly a crafty old fox. He was still immersed in the battle between Di Tian and the Saint Poison's disciple and Di Tian had already seized the initiative. The 5th rank appeared. Zhelan Chuyue who was beside him didn't sense anything at all. Her beautiful eyes were filled with smiles. He won again. He was simply a miracle, slaughtering his way into the top 10 and would soon gain the attention of the lifelong Realm Lord. Another round of silence. For the remaining 6 participants, none of them took the initiative to step out. It was like they were waiting for others to step out to challenge them. Right now, even if they didn't participate in the battles, they would still be able to advance. After Di Tian entered the top 10, he was now ranked number 6. The lifelong Realm Lord smiled as he stared at the platform. A look of interest could be seen on his face as he spoke to the person beside him. From the voices below, it seems that this person isn't someone from a major power in Lifelong City. Is that right? At this moment, Di Tian's expression changed. He felt a wave of numbness, his blood seemed to have stopped flowing. The energy in his body had no way to circulate smoothly. Clearly, the poison had already invaded his body unknowingly. Di Tian returned to his seat and closed his eyes to rest. Next, he would be facing the final battle. This battle would also be the most dangerous one. The first 2 didn't cause anyone to be too surprised. Xianyuan Tiangang had always been a famous Empyrean in Lifelong City and Sword Ion had been famous for a long time. In the Sword Spirit sect, his fame was on par with the number 1 governor of the northern region, Xiao Yu. It wasn't surprising that the 2 of them could enter the top 3. But Di Tian, a mid-stage immortal emperor that no one knew about before, actually managed to reach this step. This was simply a miracle. With regards to this battle, Di Tian was very confident. The reason why he chose the Saint Poison's disciple was very simple. It was because he was impervious to all poisons. Zhelan Yintian didn't feel any joy because of Di Tian's victory. He was still pondering over the question earlier. Why would Di Tian compromise with the Zhelan clan? He could even defeat the Saint Child of the Heaven Dragon clan. With such talent, what was his purpose in staying in Lifefire City? As this battle concluded, the rankings for the top 10 were determined. Not only were the spectators sighing in their hearts, even those experts who remained on the towering platforms were shocked by this battle. Before this, the tyrannical attitude Di Tian displayed was still fresh in their minds. For those who couldn't accept that his cultivation base was lower than theirs, he would directly challenge them. How confident was that? Right now, they clearly couldn't treat him as a mid-stage immortal emperor anymore. Upon seeing the change in Di Tian's expression, the Saint Poison's disciple lifted his palm as a terrifying black palm appeared. His silhouette flashed as a towering poison chi gushed forth, instantly appearing before Di Tian. After that, he blasted out with killing intent. In an instant, a myriad of poisons erupted forth, gushing into Di Tian's body. The Saint Poison's disciple simply didn't dare to imagine that this lofty mid-stage immortal emperor genius would actually be so careless. He couldn't even withstand a single strike. Naturally, if one didn't have enough strength to intimidate others, it was impossible for them to survive until now. If they were truly weak, there would have been people who would have long since challenged them and eliminated them. But at this moment, the Saint Poison's disciple suddenly sensed something. There seemed to be a formless white light radiating from Di Tian's body that could incinerate all poison chi. The poison that gushed into Di Tian's body was instantly evaporated into nothingness. His expression abruptly changed. After that, Di Tian's palms slammed down on his body. In an instant, a terrifying sealing law energy frenziedly rushed into his body, sealing all the energy in his body. Chapter 1622. Xianyuan Tiangang, Sword Ion and Di Tian each occupied a corner. Only 2 more battles were needed before the rankings of the top 10 would be determined. You can go down now. Sword Ion glanced at Di Tian as he spoke. His eyes gleamed with sharpness, gleaming with a sword intent. Di Tian glanced at him. This Sword Ion's ability was similar to Xiao Yu's. Qin Wentian had experienced it before. He calmly spoke, "You are not my opponent. If you don't wish to go down, you can challenge him. Maybe, you will still have a glimmer of hope." Many people were stunned when they heard Di Tian's words. This fellow was too arrogant. Sword Ion wanted him to concede, yet he said that Sword Ion wasn't his opponent and wanted him to challenge Xianyuan Tiangang instead. Simply crazy. Sword Ion's eyes narrowed as a cold light gleamed. His silhouette flashed as sword chi gushed forth from him. His entire body was shrouded by a supreme sword might, capable of shattering everything. He stared straight at Di Tian as he spoke, "Since you put it this way, I can only force you to scram." Di Tian stepped out. Seems like he still had to face 2 more battles. "Are you ready?" Sword Ion glanced at Di Tian as he asked. "Make your move." Di Tian nodded. Sword Ion's gaze was like a sharp sword, like a sword soul, directly piercing into Di Tian's eyes. At the same time, with a wave of his hand, a sword manifested, slashing through space. It was like a bolt of lightning, piercing through space and aiming for Di Tian's body, tyrannical to the extreme. Although his words were arrogant, when he truly acted, Sword Ion showed no mercy. He wanted to kill Di Tian in a single strike. Di Tian's eyes were terrifying. He didn't show any signs of weakness as he stared back at Sword Ion. Sword chi from his holy will penetrated through, like a soul attack, colliding with Sword Ion. As to why he dared to say that Sword Ion wasn't his opponent, it was because he understood Sword Ion's abilities. He could counter him. At the very least, in terms of soul attacks, Sword Ion wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. As for that tyrannical sword might that slashed over, a screen of demonic chi appeared around Di Tian, circulating around him. The sound of cracking sounds rang out as the attack tore through Di Tian's defense. But even so, the attack also vanished together with Di Tian. However, after he slashed out with his sword, Jianning didn't hold back at all. His silhouette flashed and he appeared in the air above Di Tian with lightning speed. He wielded his sword with both hands and slashed downwards. Numerous terrifying sword spirits manifested, aiming for Di Tian. This entire space was filled with a stifling sword might. Di Tian's ceiling Dharma idol flickered as a terrifying gigantic illusory figure appeared. Its eyes shone with a terrifying sealing light that engulfed the heavens and earth, enveloping the sword spirit. Myriad Soul Sword Technique. Sword Ion's body turned illusory as he shuttled through the air. Astral light flashed as his entire person turned illusory. He slashed out tens of thousands of sword spirits, slashing out with the Myriad Soul Sword Technique. Di Tian was surrounded by a boundless sword might. He had no way to dodge and could only endure this tyrannical attack. Only to see Di Tian folding his palms together. The constellation behind him moved together with him as a majestic ceiling might bore down on him, permeating the entire space. Ceiling light and ceiling diagrams shot out frenziedly, drifting through the air. At the same time, a pair of gigantic ceiling palms akin to the palms of gods grabbed out towards the 10,000 souls, wanting to seal them all away. Humph! Jian Ying's gaze turned heavy. His countenance was extremely tyrannical as though a holy sword had descended from the heavens, appearing before him. Numerous sword spirits of the past seemed to originate from the primordial era, attaching themselves to him. Sword intent radiated from him, rampaging about on the battle platform. His long hair and long robes were as sharp as swords, radiating a powerful sword intent that gushed forth endlessly. When Di Tian saw this, the starry Dharma behind him seemed to have become even more terrifying. The starlight that rained down from the sky gathered on it, evolving in a frenzy. Many dazzling swords of the great path appeared, ringing loudly. Go! Di Tian stretched his finger out. In an instant, the 10,000 swords shot out in unison. The sealing swords formed from the constellation seemed to have transformed into swords of the great Tao, directly breaking through space. Thunderous sounds rang out unceasingly, the sealing swords directly pierced into the space around Jianning. In an instant, the entire space seemed to be sealed. The sealing swords fused together as one, sealing the entire space. Jian Ying's eyes gleamed with a resplendent sword light. His long hair fluttered in the wind as he roared loudly. The sword spirits that were attached to him radiated a myriad of sword might that shot towards Di Tian, clashing head-on against the sealing swords. The two of them collided and directly destroyed each other. However, the sealing swords seemed to be endless. They pierced through the air and fused together as one, transforming into the energy of the great Tao, resembling an extremely powerful formation. Gradually, a screen of sealing light formed from the sealing swords appeared, transforming into a supremely powerful sealing barrier. The sword spirits actually had no way to break through it, and their might continued to weaken. Di Tian's actions didn't stop. The sealing swords continued shooting out unceasingly. The sword barrier grew more and more perfect, becoming indestructible. Jianning was actually trapped within, unable to break free. I've already said it. You are not my match. Di Tian calmly spoke. He blasted out with his palm as the countless swords on the sealing barrier pushed forward. Jian Ying's countenance was as pale as paper. Although the sword intent radiating from him was still incomparably powerful, he knew that his defeat was already decided. There was no way he could reverse the situation. I admit defeat. Jian Ying's eyes turned dispirited as he admitted defeat. In an instant, his entire body radiating sharpness seemed to have aged. His long hair was no longer as dazzling as before. Instead, it drooped limply, drifting with the wind. The supremely powerful expert of the sword spirit sect, Jianing, actually didn't even have time to unleash his supreme swordplay and was already defeated by Di Tian's attack. This caused everyone to be dumbfounded. Could it be that this mid-stage immortal emperor from Lifefire City wanted to obtain the #1 position in this banquet? Di Tian waved his hand, dispelling the sealing barrier as he released Jianing. Jianing was incomparably dispirited as he walked to the side. Di Tian directly turned his gaze over to Xianyuan Tiangang. There's only one last battle left. Xianyuan Tiangang stepped out, a look of shock could be seen in his eyes when he stared at Di Tian. He then smiled. I didn't expect that the person fighting against me at the end would actually be a mid-stage immortal emperor. The affairs of the world are hard to predict. If everything goes according to everyone's expectations, wouldn't it be too boring? Di Tian calmly spoke. Everyone deeply agreed. Maybe, such an unexpected battle would cause people to feel a sense of novelty. The people of the world love to see the rise of geniuses. In the future, if this Di Tian became a major character of the lifelong realm, this battle would surely become the start of a legend, the battle that made him famous. However, there were some who were happy while others were sad. For some people from the Lifefire Palace like Xia Ho and Fairy Violet Moon, they didn't like this unexpected situation at all. Given Di Tian's strength, if he was in the Lifefire Palace, other than the Lifefire Empyrean, no one would be able to suppress him. You're right. Since this is the case, you have to be careful in the next battle. I'll do my best. Xianyuan Tiangang stared at Di Tian. His aura was tyrannical as resplendent astral light descended from the sky. In an instant, a terrifying astral wind gusted around Xianyuan Tiangang, wanting to tear apart everything, forming a supremely strong heavenly barrier that was indestructible. Di Tian's earlier battle against the Jianing still hadn't dissipated. He directly challenged Xianyuan Tiangang again. Terrifying sealing light gushed forth as numerous sealing swords shot out. Xianyuan Tiangang lifted his palms. In an instant, the heavenly barrier around him shone with a resplendent golden light. In just an instant, countless divine weapons erupted forth, slamming into the sealing swords, shattering everything. Between the two of them, an explosion of light could be seen. Di Tian only saw Xianyuan Tiangang blasting out a metallic fist light. With this punch, millions of fragments of divine weapons could destroy everything, blasting out together with the fist light, wanting to tear apart the heavens and earth, tyrannical to the extreme. The power of his fist was comparable to the attacks of divine weapons, containing boundless might. Incineration transformation. Di Tian's bloodline frenziedly erupted as a terrifying demonic qi gushed forth. Xianyuan Tiangang's attack was too tyrannical, capable of destroying the sealing energy. He had to use absolute strength to defend against it. In an instant, his aura skyrocketed once more, causing the spectators to be stunned. How many trump cards does this fellow have exactly? Similarly, Di Tian punched out, the roar of a dragon could be heard, as well as the might of a divine elephant that could suppress the heavens and earth. The phantom of the pig demon pierced through the space created by the tyrannical and sharp divine weapon and was riddled with holes. However, Di Tian's fist still collided with the tyrannical fist of the pig demon. A thunderous rumbling sound rang out in the air, as though space itself was about to explode. A terrifying sealing energy directly gushed into Xianyuan Tiangang's body, and similarly, a destructive divine weapon energy gushed into Di Tian's body. Di Tian's eyes were extremely terrifying. The constellation behind him unceasingly shot out sealing swords and sealing diagrams. Xianyuan Tiangang's aura was similarly tyrannical to the extreme. He stretched out his hands as a terrifying divine weapon domain manifested. The destructive divine weapons transformed into a fearsome vortex, enveloping Di Tian within it. Even space itself was on the verge of shattering.
Di Tian unceasingly formed hand seals as numerous sealing gates appeared. This time around, it wasn't just a single sealing gate, it was a row of them. Di Tian pressed his palms together as the pig sealing gate fused together, transforming into an incomparably gigantic sealing gate. From within, boundless sealing light shot out, sealing the divine weapons that shot over were all sealed within. Rumble, a thunderous sound rang out, Di Tian blasted out the sealing gate. That gigantic sealing gate directly shot towards Xianyuan Tiangang, radiating a resplendent sealing light. Xianyuan Tiangang roared and slashed out with his Heaven Destroyer great axe. However, his axe was directly sealed by the sealing gate. No matter what attack it was, it had no way to destroy it. Xianyuan Tiangang retreated, yet he only saw Di Tian stretching out his hands, directly imprinting the sealing gate into his palms. That gigantic palm imprint that resembled a divinity imprinted the sealing gate directly shot towards Xianyuan Tiangang, not allowing him to escape. Chapter 1623. This terrifying palm imprint was like the hand of a divinity, capable of destroying everything. The palm seemed to contain the great Tao. That was a gigantic gate of sealing, capable of sealing all energy. When the countless divine weapons blasted towards the palm imprint, all of them were actually sucked into the gate of sealing, unable to be blocked. Xianyuan Tiangang retreated with lightning speed. The shadow of a great rock appeared around Di Tian. The great rock spread its wings and soared with incredible speed. He instantly soared through the air, there was no way for him to evade the palm imprint. It directly slammed down, enveloping Xianyuan Tiangang within. Xianyuan Tiangang roared. A vortex of divine weapons manifested as boundless killing intent gushed forth. The incomparably sharp divine weapons frenziedly pierced into the palm imprint. That palm imprint was like a bottomless pit, capable of sealing all existences, capable of slaying gods if they obstructed it. It then slammed toward Xianyuan Tiangang. Xianyuan Tiangang unleashed his heavenly astral shield to the extreme, containing an incomparably terrifying destructive might that could slice apart everything. It clashed against the palm imprint, causing the chaotic space around them to tremble. The indestructible palm imprint was shattered, but Xianyuan Tiangang's heavenly astral shield also crumbled apart. Only to see at this moment, Di Tian blasted out another palm imprint. Xianyuan Tiangang felt despair when he saw this scene. He sighed, "I've lost." As the sound of his voice faded, the powerful palm imprint froze in the air before vanishing completely. Di Tian's silhouette flashed as he returned to his original location. He nodded to Xianyuan Tiangang, "I won by luck. A victory is a victory, there's no need to give me face. In truth, your cultivation base is at the mid-stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. From the very start, I've already lost. This originally wasn't a fair battle. I'm very curious about who you are exactly." Xianyuan Tiangang calmly spoke. He had always thought of himself as extraordinary and felt that his talent was extremely high. He was a character that stood at the peak of the Xianyuan clan. Even in the entire lifelong city, there weren't many immortal emperors who could win against him. Maybe only a few Empyrean governors would be able to fight against him. He didn't expect that he would be defeated by a mid-stage immortal emperor. Lifeire City, Di Tian. Di Tian replied and didn't say anything more. Being overly humble was akin to being arrogant. Since he was the victor, there was no need for him to say too much. As Xianyuan Tiangang was defeated, this martial competition finally came to an end. The crowd who was silent earlier suddenly erupted into a fervent discussion. When the light barrier on the platform dissipated, they stared at the masked man standing on the platform as they couldn't help but to sigh in their hearts. A mid-stage immortal emperor actually obtained the position of number 1 in the lifelong banquet. This was simply a miracle. Both Xianyuan Tiangang and Sword Aion were defeated by him. No matter who it was, as long as he was able to obtain first place,
there would definitely be no luck or luck involved. It would definitely be absolute strength. This meant that Di Tian, who was at the mid-stage of the Immortal Emperor realm, was already standing at the peak of the Immortal Emperor realm. It was very rare for anyone to be able to contend against him. Grandpa, he obtained the position of number 1. Jialan Chuyue's beautiful eyes flashed with a bright light, as though she was the one who obtained the position of number 1. Jialan Yuntian sighed in his heart, he couldn't help but to be impressed by how terrifying this Di Tian was. A mid-stage Immortal Emperor was already at the peak of the Immortal Emperor realm when it came to weaponsmithing. Right now, he discovered to his shock that Di Tian was also at the peak of the Immortal Emperor realm. Even he wasn't a match for Di Tian. However, if it was before, he might be happy. But right now, he felt as though there was a huge rock pressing down on his heart. Before he understood Di Tian's purpose, he wouldn't be able to be like before. Not bad, I didn't expect Grandmaster Di to have such talent. My Jialan clan doesn't even have a single person in the top 10. I'm truly ashamed. Jialan Yunhai spoke. Do your best to build up a good relationship with this Di Tian. Jialan Jiangshan instructed. Jialan Yuntian nodded with a look of contemplation on his face. In the direction of the Li-Fire Empyrean, the Li-Fire Empyrean had an unsightly expression on his face. This weaponsmithing grandmaster who was on the same side as the Jialan clan had displayed such shocking talent today. Yet, he was actually leaning towards his opponent, the Jialan clan. When he thought of this, he coldly glanced at Xia Ho, causing Xia Ho to shiver as his countenance turned pale. Was the Li-Fire Empyrean venting his anger on him because Di Tian leaned towards the Jialan clan? Xia Ho stared at Di Tian on the platform as his gaze flickered with coldness. This bastard was actually so powerful. Beauty Xiao who was at the side had a smile on her face. Her eyes were captivating as she stared at Di Tian. She didn't expect Di Tian to be so powerful. Most probably, he wasn't any weaker compared to Qin Wentian, right? The lifelong realm lord stroked his beard and smiled. He stared at Di Tian, my lifelong realm is truly filled with geniuses. The most outstanding person in the competition today is actually only at the mid-stage of the Immortal Emperor realm. This truly broadened my horizons. Di Tian of Li-Fire City, right? That's Junior. Di Tian nodded as he stared at the lifelong realm lord. I've said it before. The top 10 of the competition this time around will all be rewarded by me. As for you, I've naturally made preparations as well. However, in view of your performance, I've decided to ask you a question. Do you have any requests? Do you want any rewards? The lifelong realm lord smiled as he asked. Junior does have a presumptuous request, but I don't know if I should say it or not. Di Tian replied. Feel free to speak your mind. The lifelong realm lord nodded. Although Junior obtained the number 1 position in the competition, I'm actually more interested in the Tao of weaponsmithing. Also, in Li-Fire City, I created a power named the Emperor Pavilion that specializes in weaponsmithing. After that, I started auctioning weapons and eventually developed it into a transaction pavilion and auction house. However, in the process of development, I encountered many obstructions. In fact, the governor's manner deliberately made things difficult for me for no reason, causing Junior to have a headache. Di Tian slowly spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, Xia Ho felt his entire body stiffening as his countenance instantly paled. This bastard wouldn't take this chance to complain to the Realm Lord, right? Oh. There's actually such a thing. The governor of Li-Fire City? How did he make things difficult for you? The lifelong Realm Lord asked. Back then, a certain governor of Li-Fire City wanted this Junior to specially forge weapons for him, deliberately making things difficult for me for no reason. At that time, there was a mysterious power causing trouble in my Emperor Pavilion, but the governor's manner didn't care at all, causing my Emperor Pavilion to be unable to sustain itself. Now that I think about it, I still feel a sense of lingering fear. Junior isn't here to complain, I only hope that in the future, I can focus on developing my own power. Di Tian politely spoke. Upon hearing this, Xia Ho wanted nothing more than to kill Di Tian on the spot. Wasn't this considered a complaint? The Lifeire Empyrean's eyes narrowed. Although Di Tian's words didn't implicate him, as long as the Realm Lord thought about it, he would be able to link it to him. Was Di Tian doing this intentionally or unintentionally? Your talent in the martial path is so outstanding, yet you say that you are more interested in weaponsmithing. How many people have you mocked with your words? The lifelong Realm Lord calmly spoke. Everyone nodded silently. This fellow was too good at acting, yet he still had a serious expression on his face. However, everyone in Lifeire City knew that Di Tian's weaponsmithing abilities were truly impressive. This time around, I should have heavily rewarded you. But since you brought this up, I'll announce that from now onwards, your Emperor Pavilion will be unobstructed in the lifelong realm. As long as you don't break the rules of the 9 world palaces, if anyone dares to create trouble, you can directly look for the 9 world palace lords. In addition, to compensate for the trouble you suffered, the Emperor Pavilion doesn't need to pay any tribute in the future. The lifelong Realm Lord calmly spoke, his words causing the hearts of many major powers to tremble. As expected of the Realm Lord. This reward was truly heavy. A single sentence from him ensured that the Emperor Pavilion would be unobstructed in the lifelong realm in the future. In addition, there would be no need to pay any tribute. For the current Emperor Pavilion, 100 years of tribute wasn't considered much. But what if it was 1,000 years or 10,000 years? What if the Emperor Pavilion grew even stronger and expanded into more major powers? In that case, the amount of tribute would surely be terrifying, far surpassing the original rewards. Naturally, to the Realm Lord, this wasn't considered much at all. As long as he was happy, this reward was merely a hair from 9 oxen. This Di Tian was truly intelligent. Zhelan Yintian's expression froze when he heard this. With the Realm Lord personally speaking, even if Di Tian fell out with them, the Zhelan clan wouldn't dare to make things difficult for him. This was simply a golden token that would allow them to avoid death. Also, I'll grant you the status of the supervisory commander of Lifeire City. In the future, if the governor's manor dares to make things difficult for their subordinates or violate the responsibilities of the governor's manor, you can directly report to the Lifeire Empyrean. If the Lifeire Empyrean doesn't deal with it, you can report to the lifelong Saint Hall. The Realm Lord spoke again, his words causing everyone to be shocked. At this moment, Governor Xia Ho's expression was as unsightly as it could be. With the Realm Lord's words, in the future, all the governors in Lifeire City would have to act according to his mood. If not, once he found out anything, he would directly report it to the lifelong Saint Hall to deal with it. Skipping the Lifeire Empyrean, this authority was truly transcendent. Seems like the benefits the Realm Lord promised Di Tian earlier was to pave the way for this moment, giving him the status of an official, paving the way for him to be used in the future. The hearts of everyone were as clear as a mirror. The Realm Lord wanted to use Di Tian. In the future, this Di Tian's future is limitless. Someone felt very optimistic about Di Tian's future. His performance in this battle was outstanding and he had already gained the Realm Lord's favor. In the future, as long as his cultivation base improved, he would surely be able to ascend to the heavens and become a powerful character in the lifelong realm. Zhelan Yintian felt another impact. He himself didn't know what the situation would be like when Di Tian returned to Lifeire City. Right now, most probably, even the Lifeire Empyrean would be extremely polite to him. Many thanks, Realm Lord. Di Tian bowed. In that case, do you accept? The Realm Lord smiled. Di Tian naturally won't let down the Realm Lord's love. Di Tian smiled as he replied. Such a good thing, if he rejected it, he would truly be a fool. The lifelong Realm Lord's words earlier were sufficient to allow him to do whatever he wanted in Lifefire City. No one would dare to antagonize him anymore. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.